loose, kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready.
Ready, set, go. 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 Ready, set, go. 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 Get ready, set, go. Get into it like pronto. Get hit with a combo. Do it large, real jumbo. So dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater. Hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be her. And I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights. Mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready.
Ready, set, go.
Yeah, whole team on a loose, kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready.
Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. Let's go. Go. On your mark. Go. Get ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. On your mark. Go. Let's go. Go. Get ready, set, go. 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 Get ready, set, go. 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 Get ready, set, go. Go, get ready, set, go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined via Zoom by a killer cast of characters. We have none other than Thomas Lumberg from Gathering Israel, and we got Kai Schwemmer himself, who is the star of a recent episode of Bar Fight on Michael Knowles' channel on The Daily Wire. And they do this thing where they talk controversial issues with big characters. And Kai was one of those characters that was invited. And there was some anti-Mormon comments. Several of them made in the chat, shall we say, and Kai wasn't having it. Gen Z is not having it, baby. And the gloves were off in the kindest way possible. It was a beautiful thing to watch. So being a friend of Kai's, I said, you got to come on the show, bro, and you got to talk about this. And so he was gracious enough to join us via Zoom from his very wealthy cabin in Aspen. It just with the political donation. What do they call the people that take money just to help Republicans lose? Consultant. Consultants. Yeah, the consultant cash. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, this is going to be a great conversation today. But before we jump in and talk with Kai, as everybody's coming into the chat, okay, I wanted to just have a really quick update with our boy Thomas here, who's going to be talking about some of the really, really exciting things that are going on over at Gathering Israel. You guys have had a bunch of success lately, and Thomas is the hacker king behind Gathering Israel. Kai, are you familiar with Gathering Israel? Do you know what it is?
In general, the movement of Israel and trying to gather them, absolutely. The work in the temples for people on either side of the veil, yes. But okay. No, I'm not all too familiar with what Thomas does, but I'm excited to learn. Okay.
Gathering Israel is actually a really interesting organization that buys in bulk in not just the third world, but there's a lot of places where the Facebook ads don't completely sell out. And so they'll dump them for pennies on the dollar. And we go to those places that capitalism has forgot but still have souls that matter and are great in the eyes of God. And we try and buy those up in bulk and then give out free ads for a copy of the Book of Mormon. And then using Thomas Lumberg's super duper cool AI tools to actually verify whether or not it's a real person, what their interest level is, and so on and so forth. We're able to vet those referrals and then give them to missionaries. And dude, dollar for dollar, minute for minute, ounce per ounce, it is so much more efficient than traditional missionary work. We basically dump like golden investigators in their laps, and it's like missionary work of the 21st century, bro. And it's brought to you by the heart and mind of Thomas Lumberg. So anyway, he every once in a while, about once a month, I try and get Thomas in here as like an appetizer for the live stream to tell us how well Gathering Israel is going. Because also, Thomas, don't you have some kind of big fundraiser you're doing right now?
Yes, and we will. I'll let Jonah maybe announce that one because we've got a video from Jonah. I don't know if you got that in the Discord.
Oh, I got to play a video from Jonah in the Discord. Okay, cool. Here, well, let me pull that up right now. It's the one where he's in a Santa hat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey,
All
Carden.
right.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, well, there it is. So I guess we're gonna be playing
Sure.
this
Yeah,
one.
we can watch it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So hold on. X this out. It's amateur hour over here, apparently. You know, but it's all right. Let me pull that up one more time, see what Jonah has to say.
Hey, Carden. Hey, Thomas. I'm sorry I'm a bit under the weather and I won't be able to join the live stream tonight. But I heard that some generous donor out there is matching contributions to Gathering Israel before the end of the year, just for the next few days, and matching whatever we contribute to Gathering Israel so that I can help somebody find the gospel twice as effectively. And just so happens that at the end of the year is when I like to get in my charitable contributions so that they don't end up going to taxes, which go to fund plane tickets to Epstein Island for disgusting politicians. So, coincidence. Things work out. It's like it's a win-win, right? So, my wife and I have been saving a little bit, and we want to lead a little by example here, so we're donating $1,000 to Gathering Israel, which is going to turn into $2,000, and it's going to help lots of people get the chance to hear the gospel. We have the blessings of the gospel, and other people don't. And so if we can do anything to help them, we should do it. And this is the most effective time to do it. Use that multiplier and donate to Gathering Israel before the end of the year. All of it, 100% of it goes to putting the gospel in front of eyeballs and giving people the chance that our forefathers had, that we had. And so thanks for all that you guys are doing, and thank you to anybody who contributes to Gathering Israel, and especially pray for our missionaries in the field that they can find the sheep that need to hear the gospel. So there you go. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
All right. Okay. So, wow, good on you, Jonah. He's the front man now, apparently, for Gathering Israel. I saw your presentation on that cruise ship. It was pretty dry, so maybe that's a good thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Totally
you were a part of it, so I don't know what that says about you, Card.
I'm totally just kidding with you, bro. So, all right, dog. So, dude, I'm seeing in the Discord some really cool success stories. Tell us some of the success stories, and then I'll jump in with Kai here. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for taking a few minutes here to kind of go over this. We're really excited. So, for those of you who don't know exactly kind of what we do, like we I have a couple slides that I kind of want to show. Carden, if you have like that slide deck or whatever.
Yeah, MormonFeetPics.com. Is that you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no. Okay. Sorry.
It's the one after that. Yeah.
It's the one after that. Okay, cool. Google Docs, right?
No, it's the Canva one. Well, the Google Docs one will show you a picture of someone.
Okay,
but as
cool.
you're pulling it up, the Canva link.
Okay.
One person that I wanted to highlight that just recently got baptized, her name is Annette, and she was she started defending Mormons online, and that's kind of like, so she's gone through some crazy things in her life, and I can go into more detail.
Okay, well, I've got the Canva link up, bro. What slide do I go to?
Well, you can start with the second slide. It has like a bunch of pictures.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
I don't know if Annette is specifically on that one, but
okay.
Just a quick anecdote, right, of Annette. So the journey is, right, they click on the link, so they're scrolling on Facebook, right? They click on the link,
Okay.
To they like the video about Jesus Christ or something, right? And then what happens is we have this automated two-way conversation with AI.
Okay.
It allows us to vet that individual, make sure that they're interested, and we actually filter out about 95% of these leads, and we nurture them. The ones that aren't quite ready to meet with missionaries, we nurture them over time. But anyways, she's one of the ones that we were nurturing since April of this year, actually.
Okay.
And she fell in love by God because she lost both of her parents, didn't finish school, failed in her marriage. Let's see here. She began searching for change out of curiosity, but her interest grew when she started defending the church online. And then she met with missionaries, and yeah, and then I can tell more about her let's see here. And then the missionaries patiently helped her overcome the fear of rebaptism caused by threats from her previous church. She now has a testimony of the Book of Mormon and is a true book of God. Her decision shows that even after life's hardest times, the restored gospel brings great peace and hope. So, anyways, kind of cool.
All right. So where we so last time we talked, you were just getting things started, but
Yes.
now it seems like you're 20 or 30 baptisms deep already in this country, right?
Actually, we just crossed 70.
Really?
70. Yes. So it's exponential. And next year we have the goal to do 500. We'll see if we can get there.
Okay, cool. So if I understand you right, we just started in 2024 operating. The greatest success has come out of Africa, but now you're in Eastern Europe, you're in the United States of America, and you're also in parts of Mexico and South America. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many baptisms can Gathering Israel confidently say they've contributed to now ending 2025?
Yeah, like confirmed. That's the thing. Is like there's it's possible there's more, but at the very least 70. Yeah, at the very least.
Wow.
That's just in 2025.
And
so
these are people that
really,
just sorry, keep
we didn't
going.
really start in 2024. I would say like we really started in 2025. So,
okay, cool. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
year.
I misspoke.
Yeah.
Not 2024,
No, you're good.
2025. We're in the same year. So, like, this is all just from people that have seen your Facebook ad for a free copy of the Book of Mormon, thought, why not? Or maybe they already had some tangential relationship to the church or whatever. Just thought, why not? And then now they click on it, and that just starts the process. You guys speak with them, vet them, hook them up with the missionaries, and you actually are in contact with these missionaries, making sure like, hey, you guys have followed up, right? Oh, and then they're following up and so on and so forth. And then you're able to confirm that this ball got rolling from the Gathering Israel contributions to Facebook ads. Dude, this is amazing. And how much is it costing you now? Like, I've heard heinous numbers from the church that they spend, like, in North America, upwards of like $43,000, $44,000, $45,000 per convert just in like Facebook advertisements. And it's just absolutely absurd. It's just boomers doing the only thing they know how to do. If they can't shame you into submission, they just throw money at a problem because they have no idea how to just nurture something and like work actually hard. You know what I'm saying? So they just throw money at the problem.
I can't speak for the church, but I can say that we can move fast and we can go into areas and on platforms that haven't been previously explored, right? So we just started a TikTok account. We haven't started posting yet, but we opened the account. We just started on Instagram as well. We're going to be on a bunch of other platforms. But yeah, if you go to slide 12 and 13, it has some stats. That so we're in 27 countries. I think we're actually gonna be in 30 by the end of the year.
Dude.
And then we're closing about, so like we have all these raw referrals that we generate, right? But then we vet them, and then we only send a small percentage to the missionaries to teach, right? So we're only sending highly qualified people that want to go to church, they want to take action, they want to read the Book of Mormon.
Well, you filter out 95% of these referrals and then send the top 5% to missionaries. No wonder you're doing so well, because you're able to do all of the crappy footwork. Kai, Did you ever get referrals when you were in Mendoza, Argentina, bro? If so, what were they like?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. When you said that, it's like my heart jumped with joy because as a missionary on the ground, we only really had good Facebook referrals for the last maybe year of my mission because we had a change in presidents and the new president started paying a lot for the ads, right, in the area. And of those referrals, it was like the success rate was only really good when we were able to contact them within the first minute. And if not, our filtration rate, like being able to filter all of those referrals, it was super tedious to the point where you had people that were like in church headquarters in Buenos Aires or otherwise that had to do the filtering for us because it was just so many people and half of them were bots or they were people that were just not interested. It was the same person filling out the same form. That is a miracle. The fact that you're filtering that out and just kind of selecting the people who are not just, ready and have been selected to hear the gospel, but that are prepared at that moment to hear it. That is truly a miracle. Like that speeds up missionary work exponentially. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Cause I had to deal with that sifting through everybody.
And I appreciate you saying thank you. I will just say this too. Whenever I can't take credit for this, not even my team. Our team is incredible. But
here we go.
We just wear the right jersey is all.
Here we go. Oh, it's not just me, Dodger. Okay, you're doing freaking.
Okay, go to the next slide. Go to the next
slide.
It's
like the Swedish chef.
Like he's dodging.
Dude, it's like the Swedish chef. Like, I
don't know what you're referring
to. Dude, you're doing freaking amazing crap and getting more baptisms in 5 minutes than half these missions do in 5 years. So, and I'm burning through your PowerPoint because honestly, these first like 5 slides are all just the boomer crap that you have to have, like when you're warming up the boomers. But I'm loving
13.
these
Go to slide
stats.
13.
Yeah, slide 13 is cool.
Slide 13. Here's what's cool.
$150 a referral.
So here's kind of what it boils down to. It depends on different countries and areas. So it's hard to kind of overgeneralize, and we're expanding, et cetera, blah blah blah, right? But at the end of the day, it's costing anywhere from $1,100 to $1,500 per baptism, which is incredible if you think about it. Like, what gift can you give this Christmas? Like what about giving the gift of baptism to somebody?
This is like the reverse of the prosperity gospel. This is literally the reverse of the prosperity gospel. We're like, hey, if you give us money, we will literally lose it. Like, we will literally just blow it on actually giving out free copies of the Book of Mormon that result in a positive change in people's life. Like, this is interesting. And so stats like las cifras en sí carecen de valor, which was it was a phrase that I always remembered from Preach My Gospel. When they did that fake upgrading the missionary quality, that big PR push of raising the bar, which really just meant they'd stop letting the bishop's sons from Utah bang their girlfriend on Wednesday and then serve their missions on Friday. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you remember when they raised the bar in the early 2000s and like they acted like all the missionaries previously were just like these heinous degenerates and that like now they're only going to be accepting like good ones? You don't remember that?
I am so foreign to what you're talking about.
Oh,
but
dude,
I am always entertained to hear you say it, though.
It's not just you, Thomas.
Okay, no. In 2000, I served my mission between 2002 and 2004. And
I was born in 2002.
Okay, so there we are. So in 2002, the church literally came out. The mission department said, "We are raising the bar." Chat, if you are a millennial.
I remember hearing raising the bar, but your interpretation
of it is this is what they did.
Which is very entertaining.
No, this is what they did. The church came out and they said like, the church is really going to be raising the bar. We only are going to be sending out missionaries who are worthy and have gone through a rigorous interview process. It's like, what do you think I did? And then they're like, also missionaries, they've been very repetitive, especially in the foreign languages, about how they teach the discussions. We're actually going to allow them now to teach by the Spirit. Missionaries they're going to start teaching by the Spirit. We're raising the bar. It's like, what the heck do you think I was doing in the first place? Like, I mean, it was the most insult and throw under the bus the existing missionary pool in order to get the church stoked or whatever. And look, we did have a problem that there was a lot of Utah, Idaho, and Arizonians that were serving missions because their dads had promised them a car. And that's a black spot on those Mormon belt cultures. All right. So I think that, yes, I don't think it was necessarily raising the bar as much as enforcing the rules that already exist upon cultural Mormons who've never read the Book of Mormon is what they really should have said. They really should have just said, like, we're going back to the way things were done in the 70s instead of saying, we're raising the bar. You know who was the ultimate Chad that could get over any bar? Brigham Young. And that was 100 years ago. All right. So anyway, whatevs.
Okay.
So
that's yeah. So
so about baptisms.
Back to baptism.
19 and 20. Okay?
Well, no, I'm not done.
I just want to end the. I gotta give you guys time to talk about. I want to learn about what Kai has been up to and everything. So this is exciting. So, but go to slide 19 and 20, and those are our goals. So
okay, so here we are.
Goals for 2026. Right now, we're right around 1 in 100 that we send to missionaries. It's actually trending down towards 1 in 50 that we send to get baptized. So it's actually really high closing rates, conversion rates,
cool,
whatever you want to call it. Our goal is to get it to 1 in 35. So to qualify them, and remember, this is all with AI and automation, right?
Dude.
So we're really trying to scale this with AI and automation and having these two-way conversations all automatically. And following up on those conversations and nurturing them, etc.
Isn't something lost? Wait, but before you say that, though, like here's my question. So first off, I was going to say that las cifras en sí carecen de valor, which literally means statistics in and of themselves have no value. But it is important because statistics become a barometer for some of our successes. And the fact that you're getting a baptism for 1.1K to 1.5K is actually really, really impressive. Because all of our other methods that we've dumped money into as a church have cost us $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 per baptism. Now, I get you're going to have additional success in third world countries where Facebook ads are a lot cheaper than they are in first world countries. So some of that is just kind of like baked into normal economics. But in general, having a baptism, a 4-figure baptism, is a wild success compared to all of our other data points, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, like, does it really matter how much it does matter to a certain degree, but it doesn't really matter how much the church pays for referrals, because this is the first time that has ever been possible, Cardin, to spend money. And by the way, it's not 1.1 to 1.5. It's because we're matching donations till the end of the year. So it's really only $550 to $750, right? For, to result in one baptism. But never in the history of the world has this been possible to spend your money to oversimplify
for it to be scalable,
right?
like you can
basically converts to a baptism, right? I mean, to oversimplify it, but that's really what's happening.
So right now, is it fair to say that this is the first time in history where you actually can throw money at a problem and it results in more baptisms?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can scale it with AI and automation, that's what our system allows to happen,
And just for anybody, by the way, who's maybe, going to concern troll about the language, it's like you have to be able to talk about the statistics and the way things work and how to make things efficient. And at the end of the day, just because we're talking in statistical terms or numerical values or in money, that doesn't change the fact that what we're talking about is the salvation of souls and the eternal gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think a lot of people, they get put off as soon as they hear a number, but it's like, no, we're saying that it is now more efficient. Like, we have to do less. We have to spend less money so that people who are prepared to receive the gospel receive it from the missionaries and are willing to make a covenant with Jesus Christ. So yeah, that's just for anybody who is maybe put off by the language there, by the very fiscal terms. We're talking about spreading the gospel more efficiently, which is always just based. And it's a number, but they're souls. These are all souls that we're talking about.
Did you hear that, Thomas? You are officially based, bro.
He's so based. Thomas is so based.
Yeah, I told you throwing those extra screen props behind you would get you a compliment, dude.
Yeah, you know what? This is my dad's office. I don't. It's just his code is like up here to make it look like I actually do coding. But anyways.
Okay, so hit us before you go, man. Finish.
Yeah, before I leave here, so I just want to end with a couple things. So let's see here. If you go to 23, slide 23, we came up with this new tiered system of how
is this like an MLM now, bro? Are you about to pitch us on doTERRA? Like,
Yeah, exactly. If you want to help out, right, this is how you can do it. And if you don't have the means financially, that is totally fine. Just share it with one friend, right? Share what we're doing with one friend.
With your richest friend.
Exactly.
No.
And but you can see there's different tiers, right? Like for any donor, you get certain benefits. You get the impact report, right?
oh, this is the fundraising part. Okay, good. I told you
Yeah.
to get something together. All right.
Did you?
So yeah, well, fine. So what do you got
This
going
is
on?
great.
Do you got a donor that's matching right now? What is this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So if we
so-
give $1, the donor has to cough up another $1 and you get $2, right?
Yeah, and just by the way, like, and this is unlimited, this is uncapped. It's not like up to a certain dollar amount. Like if we get some rich donor that's going to donate $1 million, I don't know if that would actually happen, right? But if somebody did that, then that would be matched, which is pretty awesome.
Wow, that's
So-
cool. Okay, so you're getting some cool promises here, and you're a 501c3, so it's all tax deductible.
right.
Basically, if you
Yep.
give any kind of money, you get part of the monthly impact report and access to the story archive, which is awesome. If you give $1,000 or more, you also get regular story updates. And then if you're one of the ballers that ends up giving a bigger donation than that, somewhere in the 5,000 and up range or whatever, you get real-time dashboard access, quarterly demos, strategy calls, and you can pick your area or country if you give more than 25K, huh? So if somebody's got a soft spot for where they serve their mission and they want to see some missionary work done there, they gotta pony up some serious cash. But it's
if
working.
You're a parent or grandparent, if you're a parent or grandparent and you got somebody in a certain mission, right? Like, what a great
that's
way to
funny.
support them, you know?
That's hilarious. Do they get to go to do trust falls at the end of the year at the seminar? Do they also get to do that, bro?
Yeah,
as part
right,
of their
exactly.
Okay, cool.
So this is what I wanted to show. The only other thing that I had on my list here to just shout out is we're like 749,000 followers on Facebook, so we're starting to go viral. So
Okay, now
great.
before you jam, the latest success was Deace, who the missionaries helped get over threats from her previous church. What country is this?
Annette. That was Annette, but yes, I can double check here. That was in
Alabama.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I actually don't know what country it is. I can tell you later. But
Is that stateside or is that African?
No, this is in Africa somewhere. I can't remember.
Because I was about to say Africa's kind of crazy, man.
I'll show you the picture. It's hard to see, but anyways.
Oh no, there it is. That's good.
Let's go.
Well, because Africa is
Receipts.
kind of nuts because the number one cause of death, I think, I don't want to besmirch the wrong country, but it was like,
Africa's a continent, by the way.
yeah, I know it's a continent.
Just
but I'm
because people are going to call you out on that. I just want
What did I say? What did I say?
Something about a country.
Yeah, you said, or maybe I'm thinking of a different country, and it's like, I
No,
know the
sorry.
chat's going to go off about
In my
that.
mind, I was thinking Nigeria, but I couldn't remember if it was Guinea-Bissau because we got the first two baptisms there. But it was one of the West African countries. I remember that the number one cause of death for women in that country wasn't illness, accident. It was domestic violence from your sexual partner. And like the fact that they had a relief society with a budget and women chose the activities, the church was considered wildly liberal. And so culturally, Americans, sometimes we think that we're conservatives here. They don't realize in other places we're actually wildly liberal. And here, it's hard saying this after Grand Blanc, Michigan, but here most people generally enjoy religious freedom and not having too much fear based upon religious affiliation. But in Africa, man, you're in the wrong village going to church on the wrong Sunday, man. Like, dude, whether it's radical jihad or whether it's the state or whether it's a tribal warlord, they might just burn you down, burn your chapel down with you in it, and that's just a Wednesday, dude. And so I actually, man, if that sister was African and she was like worried about legitimate threats from her old church, like, geez, man,
It's intense.
Yeah,
the only other final update that I've got, and then I'll hop off here for you guys, but is I don't know if you remember the guy that said, "I'm the proud owner of the Great Book of Mormon." when he first met the missionaries back in April.
Yeah, okay,
He just got baptized.
Oh, shut
So
up! That guy
was
did.
sweet. Yeah.
Oh, what was
So-
his name again? What was his name?
His name is Idrissa, the one that you
Oh,
mixed up with
that's
Annette.
okay.
Yeah.
Annette.
Yeah,
So
he's-
Annette
he's
and Idrissa.
from Sierra Leone. So,
Dude. Oh, it's
yeah.
this guy right here. No, what? And no, sorry. No, the last time we talked about this cat, Lucky. Lucky.
Oh yeah, Lucky.
Was,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, he was the guy.
A lot of great stories.
Dude, these Africans, by the way,
This
they got
guy,
total swag.
He
man.
has like his arm.
Yeah, get your
like
put it in front of your face so the camera doesn't focus on your face. Yeah, now we can see it. There we are. Boom. Okay,
Anyways.
cool.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, dude. So
All right,
so
well,
wait,
yeah,
hold
thanks for
on.
having me
Before you go, how do people donate to take advantage of this matching donations, bro? Where do they go?
Yeah. Go to gatheringisrael.org.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Gatheringisrael.org.
I'm surprised the church didn't snag that one either. So gatheringisrael.org.
Oh yeah, they're freaking crazy, dude.
They're
Like-
going to want to
No,
buy
I
the
didn't
domain.
mean it as a diss to them. I just meant it as a great opportunity for us.
Well, it's going to be awesome because if they try to buy the domain, you can say, look, yeah, and we've got a donor who's going to match whatever you're willing to pay.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. They're gonna drop a couple $1 million. Take that.
Yep.
That's
That'd be
funny.
great.
All right. Well, Thomas,
Okay.
thank you very much. Salutations to the family. The largest smiles in Utah are the Lumbergs. I saw them
Yes,
all.
sir.
I met the mom and the dad, and there's not a giant grin missing in that entire family photo. So thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
my man. That was awesome.
Okay,
So,
we'll see ya.
Kai, down to business.
Brass tacks.
Brass
Ready.
tacks, bro. Okay, so we got everybody in the chat now. Okay, and we're all
Are they
here.
being nice?
We're about
can't
to
read it.
we're about to find out because I'm going to
Okay.
read some super chats right here. All right. So
Let's go.
here's the first 3 super chats. First off, some people recognized what I was talking about raising the bar. The chat was like, "Yeah, I remember those days." And so I know exactly what they're talking about. And then somebody else said, "That's not what raising the bar was about, bro." So anyway, let's burn through the super chats really fast. Cardin, I got asked by my dad at 10:30 to do a talk for tomorrow. I'm thinking talking about the Pearl of Great Price, but help. What should I do? Oh. What, dude, Kai, do you have a go-to talk that you can give impromptu, bro, that you could help this guy out with?
One that I love that I've been giving a couple times, or that I've given a couple times since my mission, is to really dive into the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there's a game that we used to do with like the kids in Argentina where you do like every step of the gospel, and it's cool. I won't explain the whole thing. People have to, come check out my account if they want to know the trick, future missionaries especially. But talk about how each like part of the gospel, faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, repentance, baptism, the reception of the Holy Ghost, through the laying on of hands and enduring to the end. Talk about every single step of that, and then talk about how the gospel is literally those things. I think so few members understand that the gospel is not just like some kind of innocuous term or vacuous term that doesn't have a set definition. It's like specific things, especially if you've done the endowment. These things are mentioned very specifically within the covenant of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So yeah, I would just do a deep dive on that. It's core doctrine, but it's oftentimes either misunderstood or understood in a super shallow way, and there is a lot of profoundness to the topic.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Mine was, dude, I think the most overlooked story in the Book of Mormon. I think the most overlooked story in the Book of Mormon is found in Ether. Gosh, you might have to help me out with this one, Kai, because I can't remember right off the top of my head. But I think it's in Ether chapter 2 or 3 when the brother of Jared goes to the top of Mount Shelem.
Yeah.
That is such an important story that is so analogous to our lives, and nobody ever talks about it. But here's, I guess, the 1-minute version. Is if you actually read that story, the brother of Jared was given a task, a very difficult task, and he asked the Lord, "What should I do?" And the Lord tells him, "Okay, you got to build a boat." He's like, "Okay, cool." He goes and builds a boat. Then he comes back and he says, "Oh, well, I got this problem. How do I fix it?" And the Lord gives him the answer, like, "Okay, well, you just have to make it tight like unto a dish, build this little door here," or so on and so forth. Awesome. And then finally, there's this third problem that comes along. Well, crap, now we don't have light. I built your boat. I made it airtight. I made it watertight. Well, now how am I supposed to get light? And there's a moment where the Lord tells him, "Okay, well, what would you have me do? And the Lord dumps it in his lap. And that was an opportunity for him to go and kind of figure something out, figure out what he wanted, what he thought was needed, what the Lord gave him his brain to work with, you know? And he climbs to the top of Mount Shelem. He gathers smooth stones. I think it even mentions, I know Nephi made a bellows, you know, but it mentions like a lot of difficult work. Like Mount Shelem was called Mount Shelem. Why? Because of its exceedingly great height. So this is like
people forget, by the way, he makes the stones. Like, he
that
doesn't
was it.
find
Yeah.
Stones. Yeah.
Yeah. He had to make, he had to build bellows, and then he had to, it said he wrought those stones, which generally means creation through fire. Right. So he makes these stones. Okay. And then also you got a bunch of heavy stones. Like, so then after he builds his bellows and everything, then he has to come down, and then he tells the Lord, if you touch these with your finger, then I know they will glow and we will have light. And I think oftentimes all of us have experienced that miraculous time where we needed the right scripture to guide us. We didn't have time. And so we open it up randomly, and God told us exactly what we needed to do in that moment. We've all been there. Okay. And those are the gimmies. That's the round one. We've all been there before where it's like, we don't have time. We got to find this. I have friends that are first responders that have literally gotten on their knees with their entire unit in LAPD and said, Lord, we need to find this child. We know that if we don't find them in the first 20 minutes, they will go missing forever. And they got missing from this place. Where should I go? And following the Spirit, simply driving into LA, going right when the Spirit said go right, going left when the Spirit said go left, and then fanning out with a group, they found the freaking missing kid like tied up behind a shipping container. Dude would have starved to death. You know what I'm saying? Before traditional means of police work would have found him, or whatever person randomly walking by, but the Spirit guided that person to that place in an undeniable way for that law enforcement officer that I've spoken to, right? Those are the gimmies that happen in round one and round two. But every once in a while, the Lord comes back and said, okay, what would you have me do? You go make the plan. And if we work hard, and obviously it's so easy for us to, you know, be worried about, I'm going to get clipped for saying works save us. No, it's not that works save us, but works are a refining process sometimes. And I think sometimes we do have to work for things so that we experience the spiritual refinement that the work gives us. And then if we do that and we put that effort in, God will reach down and he will touch those stones and they will glow and they will light the way. And this is so important because, like, if you have a problem, like let's just say you struggle with paying your tithing, one of those stones might be tithing. And then if you go home, you develop your plan, you say, okay, why do I struggle with this? Is it an emotional barrier? Is it whatever barrier? Is it a financial barrier? And you work through it, and then you present that stone to the Lord. He doesn't really care what it is, what your solution is, but he will reach out and he will touch it. And that's the most overlooked story in the Book of Mormon, I feel, that you could speak on forever, that and the prodigal son. Sorry, Kai, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to add, it's also funny. There's a good metaphor in there for finding the stones to do something, to act in faith. and I think it absolutely is that, where it's like, look, dude, President Nelson talked about, in order to grow your faith, you have to do things that require more faith. And I had moments in the mission, like I made this invitation to a woman on my mission. She was baptized the last Sunday of my entire mission. Her name was Vita. She's amazing. This wonderful woman. And she had been resisting like baptismal invitations. Like she did the classic that every Spanish missionary knows, the bueno chicos, yo les aviso. Like I'll let you know. And then they never let you know ever. Yeah. But anyway, I had this moment where I extended a baptismal invitation, and I said, without a strong spiritual prompting to say this, I said, look, I know it is the will of the Lord that you should be baptized this specific Saturday. But when I said that, despite the fact that there wasn't like this immediate spiritual prompting that told me I needed to say that, when I said it, there was absolutely spiritual support and testimony where I had the Spirit confirm to me, yeah, what I just said is true, and the Lord is backing that up 100%. And she actually ended up saying no to the invitation. We came back 2 weeks later, and invited her to be baptized on the exact same day that I had initially proposed, because I knew that the Spirit had just confirmed to me what I had said, and she accepted it and was baptized 3 days later on the last Sunday that I was there. It was amazing. Like, it was such a miracle. But that's what it is. A lot of the times we all wait for the spiritual impression to tell us to do things. You know what the Lord's opinion is. It's like, especially if you're a missionary, what are you going to wait to invite somebody to read the Book of Mormon? No, you're not. You're going to wait to invite them to go to church? No, you're not. So why would you wait to invite them to make a covenant with Jesus Christ like baptism? You already know that God wants them to be baptized. So what's the point in waiting?
Yeah.
So
Just
I
no
think we
cheating.
need more of that.
Just no
Yes.
cheating, no cheating, and using Daniel the AI on Scripture Notes. one of our sponsors. I can't remember what he was telling. I did one of our sponsors is ScriptureNotes.com, and I was talking with the owner, Oak Norton, and I remember one of our first episodes. I was like, "Wait, could you actually write a church talk with this AI?" And he was like,
Yep.
well, and he starts hemming and hawing in a way where I'm like, you could. And he's like,
I knew an
well, we
elder that did
really
that.
shouldn't. I was like, nah, dude, no chat GPT talks. That's just where we draw the line, dude.
I knew an elder that did. He literally used the LDS bot in order to make a baptismal talk for the baptism of somebody. Like, 'cause the speaker pulled out or something, and he unironically chatbotted it. I think he changed a couple of things, but it was, that was a little
That's
bit of it was a little sus.
Okay, so there's that was way too long for that first super chat, but thank you, Dragon Slayer. Now we got Joe Kahn says, hey Kai, thanks for representing the church so well. Now if you were okay with having foreign allies and not okay with trusting government with UBI. Oh man, I agree with 50% of that, but don't come after my UBI, bro. Don't come after my UBI. This is going to be really interesting. So Kai, UBI makes for very strange bedfellows. UBI makes for very, very strange bedfellows.
I found that out when I went to the first Yang Gang meeting in Salt Lake during his Democratic primary campaign.
Were you Yang Gang, bro?
I was Yang Gang, and when
Get
I
out
went
of
to the
town.
first meetup,
Wait, did you ever watch my old podcast, Problem Solver Politics?
No, I didn't know about it before.
Dude, we were the number one Yang Gang YouTube channel.
I tapped in admittedly pretty late, but I remember I went to
Okay.
my first meeting with the SLC Yang Gang, and it was at like this totally vegan restaurant, and I'm like, okay, there's an interesting coalition here that we got going.
That's funny. Well, and that's the sad is I can say this confidently. I knew, like a lot of us Mormons during Proposition 8 in 2008, we knew that it was a losing battle, but we had been asked to fight it. So it's kind of like the charge of the Light Brigade. So
Fight it till the death.
yeah, you know what I'm
ready.
saying? It's like, okay, fine. Like we know we're going to lose this, but like we are marking our objection, right? And
Based.
so to a certain extent, it was very much the charge of the Light Brigade, right? I guess support is such an odd word because what does support mean? Most people think that's like a personal endorsement or a financial, of which I did neither, right? But I did cover all of Andrew Yang's policy proposals and analyze them and everything, so on and so forth on no, it's no longer functional really, but on an older channel that I had, and quickly grew to become the number one Yang Gang channel. And I knew going into it, this guy, I don't want to say he didn't have the stones or the backbone. Like he would have been an amazing president, but it's like now presidents can't just be smart people that inspire with great ideas. They kind of have to be like, warrior publicists.
Yep.
Like they can't be warrior priests anymore. They have to be warrior publicists.
Yep.
Okay. And that's why AOC is running the Democrats and Donald Trump is running the Republicans because he's dang good at Twitter. She's dang good at Instagram. Right.
And Newsom is even more of a testament to that. It's like, it is the Trumpian style. You're right. I like that they have to be these warrior, publicists. That's absolutely
yes.
true.
The warrior poet class is now the warrior social media elite class. And if you're not good at social media, you're absolutely tanked. So I supported Andrew Yang in spite of knowing that he probably could not win because he didn't have the oomph but man, his ideas were so good, and I wanted to push so many of them to the forefront as I could. That and one of them was UBI, and here's the wild part: the boomer knee-jerk reaction to UBI is, well, no, you gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and that's the most socialist. That's communism. We fought the USSR over UBI, and who won? We won, because capitalism always wins. And they don't realize, like, no, this is actually capitalism in its purest form. When you start a game of Monopoly, everybody gets $100, and it's not an actual game of equal opportunity unless there is the opportunity. Oh, so you're saying poor people that don't work don't show? No, this isn't means tested. The second you say poor people, it's no longer universal basic income, you know? Oh, yeah, but that's just a big progressive socialist talking point. And yes, there was a lot of progressives that would rally behind it, mistaking it as some kind of means tested, like, socialist firebrand, but it's not. It's not. It was passed by, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard Nixon's Senate and Ronald Reagan's House of Representatives. And it was invented by Milton Friedman, the OG of, like, conservative, aka or pseudo Republican, non-Keynesian economics, right? So we're gonna talk that another day.
But we're in agreement. I 100% that I loathe this boomer conservative talking point. It's like the monster of socialism behind, like, whatever the government does. It's just not rigorous thinking about politics. And if you want to talk solutions, it's like, yeah, the universal basic income is even better than the Milton Friedman or the Ludwig von was it Mises or was it Friedman who talked about the negative income tax? I forget, but it's like, this is even better. It's like, you want to talk about using the market to really produce a lot of good for Americans. A stimulus is something like a universal one. There's, like you said, it's not means tested. This is one of the best things you can do. And you want to talk to these Republicans about it. Look, Trump's trying to do that with the military. What do you think these tariff dividends are? It's like, he's already doing this. Like, this is something that Republicans do. What do you think they do in Alaska? They have a bunch of oil. They're able to make a bunch of money. I think Cardin knows that I'm able to monologue, which is why he's walking away. But this is absolutely true. It's like the fact that these boomer conservatives just have this knee-jerk reaction to anything that the state does, and that is socialism, or that is, big government and what we fought the Russians about. It's like, no, we actually didn't fight the Russians just to, make it harder for a mother to, live, or a college student to dedicate himself to his studies. We fought the communists because they were trying to destroy, like, Westernism as a whole. They were trying to be this entirely different faction. I don't know. There's a whole different discussion, but yeah, we're very much in agreement.
Well, it's one we're going to have another time, though. But I think our church could implement a UBI amongst its membership.
I think so.
Like,
I think so.
I literally think, and I love what Elon Musk said when they asked, why do you support UBI? And he said, because he said, I think it's not just a possibility, but it's an inevitability.
100%.
And it will force everybody takes that part where Elon Musk said, I don't think it's just a possibility, but an inevitability. And they cut it off there. Do you remember what he said after that in the interview?
I don't even know if I've seen that clip. Like, but it's 100% true.
When
I'm
asked
not sure I've seen
about
that,
UBI and why he supported universal basic income, because Elon Musk was basically perceived as being Yang. When asked why he supported UBI, he said specifically, I don't think it's just a possibility, but I think it's an inevitability. And this is so crazy. He said, once we do that, it will force us to answer life's deeper questions, like who we are, where we came from, and what is our purpose here.
And that's when we hit him with lesson 2, plan of salvation, baby.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. Like, I'm telling you, I actually think that universal basic income is something that our church could easily do it. We could afford it. And started out in places like Hawaii and California in North America, started out in Africa, started out in parts of South America. I think in places where the local population is getting displaced by the affordability crisis is a good place to start if you're in North America. Now, North America is the most rich continent, so I don't think you need to necessarily just, blast this everywhere. If you wanted to have test areas, I would say choose a test area in Western Africa. Choose a test area in South America. Choose a test area in Eastern and Western Europe. Choose a test area in Asia. And every continent have one. And if you want to try a test area in North America, have it be where most of the people born there are being displaced by the affordability crisis.
I would say I like the way you're thinking, but I think that the church could never implement such a thing, because I think the church has to exist as something that demands more from you than it would ever give. And I think it was actually great. I heard this said in a history class, actually, that I was taking this last semester, but we were reading something by, who was it? I don't think it was Bushman. Maybe it was, but no, it was a female author. She basically wrote about her church experience and said, a bishop one time very directly told me that maybe coming into church was supposed to require more forgiveness of me and was not supposed to be the place where forgiveness abounds readily. And I don't think people think about it that way. They don't think about a church as a place where you are going to be required to practice more Christian virtue. They think about it being a place where you won't have to deal with any negative or bad people at all. And that's just not what it should be. And I think the fact that, you're not being paid to go on a mission, the fact that you are, and that's by the way, why what you pointed out is so true with this old brand of missionary. It's like, it's not good to give people incentives to do a virtuous thing. It's actually even better when it's more difficult for them. When paying your tithing is difficult, when, being a member of the church is not something you're being financially compensated for. So I'd say maybe on that ground, I don't think it would work. And I'm certain the church would probably never do it, just because it would, the public perception that would give is brutal. Like 100% the first day out, we're getting the Mormon church is paying people to be a part of it. So
That's true. We'll workshop it later, Kai. We'll workshop it later.
I like it.
In
the policy room, I like that. And hey, Yang had 100 policies on his website before Kamala Harris had a single one up.
Dude, it was gold. YouTube gold. So last two super chats here. Canuto de Leon says, hurrah for gathering Israel. Thank you very much, Canuto. And you, we recognize you have been one of the first digital missionaries out there doing a lot of good work. And then Crandall Logan here says, adios, Kai and Cardin. Getting ready to leave for work. Wish I could watch more live. Kai, you dunked on Deace, Steve Deace, which brings us into here it is. We're just gonna play it. So, gosh, this is a 40-minute video. We can't watch the whole 45-minute video, but I almost want to let this run and just show these people what you are up against and how well you responded. But basically, here it is in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. You can check it out on YouTube. Michael Knowles is a popular podcaster on a platform called The Daily Wire. He's kind of one of the top 10 conservative firebrands, I'd say, out there. He's deeply Catholic, though, and very respectful of most religions. I would actually say of all of the interlocutors out there, he is by far one of the most respectful towards Mormons, evangelicals, whatever. So he got Steve, I always thought it was called Steve Deace, but apparently it's pronounced Steve Deace. He got Steve Deace on the channel, which you guys might recognize as the author of one of my favorite Christian films ever made. You know what movie he wrote, bro?
Nefarious, right?
He wrote the book Nefarious. Yeah.
Didn't they make a movie adaptation, or am I tweaking?
Oh,
or is that
it was
a different
phenomenal.
thing?
No, the movie adaptation was great, and it wasn't just Christian cringe. Like, it was actually a really good movie. So anyway, he has this show called Bar Fight where people talk controversial subjects. And you know what? Let's I'm just going to start in at 8 minutes and 11 seconds in. All right. 8 minutes, 11 seconds in, just so people get a feel of like what it was like. Just so they get a feel.
Making illegal the burning of a flag. What flag was that? It was if they are in defense of a foreign nation. And to the point, by the way, that we're assembled around this war in the right wing. Here's the question. There is a conflict in the right wing concerning support for Israel. We have one side that is saying, I will not support the right wing if it continues this posture with the relationship to a foreign nation. Now, I see those people as people who want to prioritize American interests, but you have a second party.
Okay, cool. So now everybody gets a deal. Boom. He's jumping right in to support or not support Israel. So you can tell they're touching third rails here. All right. It's called Bar Fight for a reason. All right. And Steve Deace brings kind of like the traditionally conservative, we defeated the USSR with this worldview. And then you're coming in with like the Gen Z worldview, right? So fast forward to, what's the timestamp, bro? where they started
fine.
doing Q&A?
10 minutes, 35 seconds.
10 minutes and 35 seconds. Okay. So I'll be honest, bro. When I watched this the first time, there's a moment where you say something kind of cool about Mormons, and then a guy kind of does a little dump, and you kind of just like brush it off a little bit. And I was like, Kai, come on, you should have gone to bat for us. And then just like in
I was plotting.
just like in Dumb and Dumber, where he's like, you always do this and then totally redeem yourself, right? Like a minute later, you came out with like an awesome Alpha Chad response. So anyway, we're going to go to 10 minutes. Here's 10 minutes and 18 seconds just for us to be conservative.
It stands with his foreign ambassador. I think we do look like schmucks to let a spy who was selling secrets to a foreign government come onto our soil. He was born in Texas. Why was it that he flew over to Israel and was told that he was at home? I think that does sound like there are foreign interests that come before our own here in America.
Okay. Now we open it up to questions or
Okay.
comments or concerns.
I have all of them. All right. If Christianity.
By the way, this guy looks like if Mark Ruffalo had a sober but very frustrated younger brother who was very aggressively evangelical and just judged you before hearing at all what you had to say, it would be this guy.
I can't stand the millennialism. I can't stand the I have all of the above. It's like, bro.
Yeah, dude. So just remember, millennials are really just the youngest boomers, and boomers think they know everything. So therefore millennials think we do. Actually, just millennial has accepted that we know everything. We just don't have, like, it's not within our reach. Like, we know you need a house to be able to, gain personal wealth. We just know we can't afford one. So, and Gen Z just doesn't even, or Gen Alpha just doesn't even know what money is.
Post irony.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, okay, so here we go. Let's see what he has to say. I thought this was actually a very interesting question in different ways. So here's his question.
Or comments or concerns.
I have all of them. All right. If Christianity is going to outlive this moment right now, where there is like a surge of interest in Christianity, is the future Roman Catholic or is it Protestant? And
What about Mormons?
Hold on. That's not Christianity at all.
I don't know about
Not the
that
same
one.
team. Different team. Okay. But is there more that Protestants need to steal from Catholics, or more that the Catholics need to go back and relearn from the Reformation?
Okay, so I'm only pausing there really fast, A, for copyright, but B, because viewers of this program might remember my dear friend Cody. He's not a member of the church. He has come to church with me, but he was actually my co-host on Problem Solver Politics and one of my partners over at the radio station FM 98.1. And he said something very, very interesting. He's like a dude that was on 4chan before people knew what it was, a dude that was on Twitter back when like nobody was tweeting. He's always been a very forward-thinking early adopter of technology, swamp creature born and bred on the internet. He knew who Nick Fuentes was back when Nick Fuentes only had like 10,000 subscribers and was like still a senior in high school. He knew who Andrew Yang was back when Andrew Yang didn't even have his own blue check mark on Twitter. This guy is just the canary in the coal mine of all things internet. Okay. And he told me, he said, Cardin, the great religious question in North America of the next 100 years is going to be, is it Mormons or is it Catholics? And I was like, whoa, what makes you say that? So it doesn't surprise me that now we're getting guys like this asking questions about, okay, as we return to Christianity, we recognize wokeism was really just atheism 3.0, and atheism failed us, so we need to go back to church. The question now begs the question, which church? And most people are generally familiar with Protestant or Catholic politics in North America. And so you heard, I liked how you said, hey, what about Mormons? That was great. And there's like, oh yeah, he gives his like horrible dig. Do you think he knew you were Mormon?
No, he probably found out just then, I'd imagine. Because I don't know if I mentioned it before. I don't think I did.
And I was actually pleasantly surprised all the boos that he got.
Yeah.
What was it like in the room? What was it like in the room?
I had to pull up with my squad, It's I this. We'll get to it in a minute, but I have a funny comeback when we talk about like the representation of the LDS in the space.
Okay, cool. So anyway, here he is. Let's see how it goes. He gets booed a little bit, but he sticks to his guns.
Well, listen, I love the Reformation because it gave us the Counter-Reformation. So I do have an answer to this, and it's not my own. It comes from Alexis de Tocqueville, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest analyst ever of American democracy, wrote Democracy in America. And in a little quoted but important observation in Volume 2 of Democracy in America, Tocqueville makes this shocking prediction. He says, yeah, America is a Protestant country, it looks like it, but over time, it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to go atheist or it's going to go Catholic, both of which would have seemed absurd at the time. And his argument was that America is a democracy, and in democracies, people hate authority, so they want to get rid of religion. But if they're going to keep religion, they want it to be a uniform religion, a universal religion that applies equally to all. And there, the answer would be the Catholic Church. So he predicted a bunch of Catholics in America. And I might have called him crazy even 15 years ago. I'm seeing a lot of people swim the Tiber, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Gentlemen?
Okay, so he gives an answer that I guess it tracks. It makes sense. He quotes de Tocqueville, who wrote his famous 1750s or 1790s book or whatever. And homeboy is literally like putting his hands together like he's about to eat a pizza or something. Okay. And now let's see the second answer. I believe he goes to Deace, right?
I think America needs to be a biblical nation. I think that ultimately...
Oh, by the way, that is always just Protestant code or Calvinist code or evangelical
for sola
code.
scriptura.
Yeah, that's always just code for me and my buddies in my flavor, my very specific flavor of non-denominational Christianity or very specific denominational Christianity, but even usually denominations don't use this. It's almost always just that evang... J-dubs are horrible. Catholics are going to hell for their saint worship. Mormons are already there. Kind of burn the witches. Like if you ever want, if there ever were a person who were going to try and justify the burning of witches, they would use the term biblical as the adjective before the heinous war crime or the heinous crime against humanity. You know what I'm saying?
That's why, by the way, the kind of rhetorical, not innovation, but the recapturing of that rhetoric by a lot of the LDS debaters, like, Restored Truth, like Chuck, that guy's amazing, like Baylor, like some others, the framing that we've recently been adapting to, which is that, okay, we're not creedal Christians. We believe in like the God of the Bible. Being able to say that is so based because it punches back at those Protestants who think that the Bible is theirs. It's like, yeah, well, you guys believe in the Trinity. And if you actually press them on like, okay, where's the Trinity being defined in the Bible, in this biblical, framework that you're always applying, they actually start to squirm because they realize this is very extra biblical. So I love the fact that a lot of the LDS apologists have started to change the framing there in the way that we use the word biblical. I love that.
Okay, speaking of which, are you watching any LDS apologists lately? Like, who do you watch? Who do you watch the most of? You don't have to say me. I know it's not me. It's fine.
Well, I started watching your stuff after my mission because a lot of people started messaging me about that. I even had some non-LDS friends who were like, "Have you heard of Ward Radio?" And so the people who I watched before my mission, I want to think. Man, I only found Stick of Joseph. I only found those guys after my mission, but I love their stuff. I think I did watch Jacob Hansen before my mission, which some people are going to be actually interested to know because he and I, we've butted heads about our politics, but at the end of the day, he does great apologetics work. We love Jacob Hansen. We're one struggle there. And then before, I went to Fair a lot. I don't know if I watched many apologists, like the kind of the way that we have them now, a lot of individual characters. But I went to Fair. I was reading articles. I liked Hugh Nibley. That's kind of where I was getting a lot of my apologetics information from. But now we have a whole cast of characters. I mean, Restored Truth, absolutely amazing. Like I said, love the Stick of Joseph. Love Baylor. I love all those guys and Ward Radio, of course. So I've definitely expanded my kind of listening.
Okay, cool. Interesting. That's good to know. It's good to know. Okay, let's keep hearing what our boy Steve has to say about biblical America. We're going to go back 8 seconds.
Crazy even 15 years ago? I'm seeing a lot of people swim the Tiber, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Gentlemen?
I think America needs to be a biblical nation. I think that ultimately the Word of God is the rock upon which Western civilization was built. And I think that what you're seeing right now, and I think this started with Charlie, I think this is confirmed by Charlie's memorial. What you saw was the Holy Spirit bypass the ecclesiastical structure. It essentially gave up corporately on much of the church that had become weak, flaccid, watered down, guys in perpetual Hawaiian shirts and skinny jeans and sweater vests. And we're not interested in combating the spirit of the age, claiming to be seeker-friendly. It's funny how all the seekers were always in these really posh suburbs where everybody makes hundreds of thousands of dollars and can write all kinds of tithe checks. You know who was really seeker-friendly? Charlie was. Charlie went where the actual seekers were.
Actually, I agree with most of everything that he's saying. I mean, he's indicting North American evangelical Christianity as a grift and a business that only settles in suburbs that reward this kind of flaccid, hipster, therapeutic deism church instead of actually getting to the brass tacks of what Jesus Christ calls for and wants. Like, I'm actually in 100% agreement. If all of his anti-Mormonly violent friends hadn't ruined the term biblical already, I would actually be 100% on board with Steve right now. Let's see how he continues.
Charlie proved ultimately is that the word does not return void. And I think ultimately it is the word of God that is perfect. It's the only perfect thing on the earth. It is the word of God that remains. Movements come and fall. Sects come and fall. You see theological fads come and go. The word of God is the constant. And I think ultimately your culture is either built on the word of Christ or chaos.
Okay, cool. Fine. Awesome. So at this point, I was like, okay, I like these answers, but man, Kai had a missed opportunity. He had a missed opportunity to defend his boys, and he didn't, and he disappointed me. Now let's see what happens.
Well, if I could add, I'm
chip in for the LDS side here.
I was going to say, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think, is a very big underdog in this fight. If you want to talk about
on that, we agree.
If you want to talk about,
oh yeah, look at him, dude. That was his attempt at a dig. Let's listen to that one more time.
It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense as a dig.
Christ or chaos.
Well, if I could add, I'm
chip in for the LDS side here.
I was going to say, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think, is a very big underdog in this fight. If you want to talk about
on that, we agree.
If you want to talk about religions in America, there's no more American religion than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But that being said, we have record growth in membership in the last year around the world. We absolutely have the important aspects of apostolic succession hierarchy in the church, but we also have
shots fired,
the availability of the Protestants in the country. So I think the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with its bold claim that God still speaks to us, that revelation is still being received for the church through a prophet, through 12 apostles, the same structure that existed in the primitive church, I think that's something that may actually save this country from its demise a little bit down the road. And we're also the #1 most church-going state or province, however you want to call it, in the entire Western world, Utah. So I think that speaks for itself if we're talking about fruit.
Yeah! Woo! Dude, I was looking around for an air horn. I still don't own an air horn, but I want to shoot off an air horn. All I got is WD-40, unopened WD-40 from Home Depot still. I'm ready to fog the studio with WD-40, bro, because that was epic, dude. That was epic.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I was not going to take that lying down. It's like, I don't know. I think it surprises a lot of people because there's plenty of Latter-day Saints who are, especially in politics, who don't like mentioning it. But it's like, dude, come on. We've got receipts. And, I started out with that thing saying, we're the most American religion. True. And if you look at the way that the Constitution and the United States' existence was a necessary prerequisite for the restoration of the gospel, you understand that. And, obviously that's why you have church leaders like Benson who have talked at length about, some of even the political threats to the United States. I think barring all of that, it's like we are expanding globally. We had this record year as far as convert baptisms go. We're improving in our retention. And there was a little nod even to, like the white horse prophecy, this idea that the Constitution will hang by a thread and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will save it. But it's like, to some extent, I believe that's true. You want to talk to me about truly a religion whose members are embodying the ideals that this country was founded on. look no further than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this is what I said. I said this after the Grand Blanche, Michigan shooting, because this was, something that bothered me so much. When people attack the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its members, they are attacking by proxy the ideal of what America should be and the ideal Americans. It's like when you talk about who you would like to be your neighbor, or when you describe a model American, who do you describe? Somebody who is church going, who is civic minded, somebody who participates in civil society. And by the way, the Boy Scouts, maybe one of the most important, organizations of civil society for like the last couple decades until it dispersed, unfortunately, due to poor executive decisions within the organization. This is something that is intricately tied with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its membership. Then past that, these are Americans who have large families. These are Americans who give more to charity than any other group. These are Americans that are more church-going than any other group, and like I said, province or state in the entire Western world. So when you want to talk to me about what America should resemble, I think, like what I said at the end, the fruit is very clear. The fruit of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints cannot be disputed against. And this is why every single person who comes up to meet a member of the Church of Latter-day Saint, they always say the same thing, which is that these are the nicest people in the world. I have these theological disagreements, but I cannot fault them for their character. That just sounds to me like you're making up a bunch of reasons not to just say that the fruit of the tree is good and yummy and tasty. And you just want to deny that because it's inconvenient.
Okay, so
you'd rather, tell us to die on Twitter.
Oh, dude, no, seriously. It's a problem, man. It's a problem. Like, and I it's actually part of the reason why I lamented so much the loss of Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, I love what he said in Salt Lake City, where he said, I'm not a guy that I don't hate on Mormons. You guys have children, more children than you can afford sooner than you think you can. You're helping keep this country together. Like, he saw that there's bigger questions at work here than what, like, my buddy Mike Churek says you're going to hell for, Yeah. And when he was gone, did you notice it only took Mark Driscoll, who is their third guest on this show, it only took him 36 hours. Like Charlie Kirk's body wasn't cold before he's releasing a book, Why Mormons Aren't Christians. And he tries to roll it back when the pushback comes in and say, oh, well, it was AI generated and my interns did it. BS, dude. That thing was so obviously waiting in the wings, colorized to look like the Book of Mormon, seething with all this evangelical hatred. You know that it's like Charlie was such a positive influence on American conservative politics, not just because he was a coalition builder, but he was a coalition prevent it from chewing itself apart is what he was. And you know that as long as Charlie Kirk was around, he would not have smiled on it and said, what the hell are you doing? Like, Arizona is held together with duct tape, scotch tape, and Mormons. Like you really want to publish your stupid little book, just to disenfranchise 20,000 volunteers that we've got out here that are keeping our nation from going atheism 2.0 woke and then just outlawing the Bible from schools? Really? And you're supposed to be a pastor that has like influence? There's nothing strategic about that. There's nothing moral about that. Don't you do that or you lose my support and TPUSA's support. And that leverage, like he literally, I have so much respect for Charlie Kirk because of, similar to Joseph Smith, who he forgave, how he kept freaking coalitions together, and how he could subordinate ego and like just interdenominational squabbles to like just, I don't know, positive strategy, coalition building, whatever you want to call it. So here's my question for you. You're kind of like an insider. Post woke, like woke fell precipitously. It was like the fall of Saigon. Woke was super cool literally like 6 months ago. Like, I'm afraid to speak up at work or I'll lose my job if I'm a conservative. Cool, right? Yeah. And so much so that now, even like 6 months later, we just watched Stranger Things. And it was kind of funny when the guy sits down and he's all like, and all just conflicted, and all the music's starting, and everybody's gathering around. I made a joke to my wife. I said, let me guess, he's going to come out as gay now, right? And sure enough, 6-minute monologue. It's like, okay, let's just stop the fact that Vecna has the worlds merging together in a black chaotic matter wormhole, and we've spent 6 episodes in the most efficient script possible building all of this crescendo of music and pressure and stakes and everything. Now we got to sit for 6 minutes and have a chat about, dude, bro, it's like, okay, you're gay? Okay, cool. Duly noted. Can we go save the world now? You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
no, it's, dude, it's sorry to interrupt, but
Okay.
I was watching and I haven't seen the episode, but it's like, guys, before we can save the world, I want to let you guys know something. I like kissing men. It's like I have to get this off my chest because I will not be able to save the world until you guys know that I like kissing men and not girls.
It was so not well received on Twitter and TikTok. All my son's little Gen Alpha buddies are just like, oh, hey guys, hey. They started making fun of it, saying, hey guys, the world's about to end, but I got bigger news, you know? And they're just walking around trolling in a way that just like, it's night and day what it was 6 months ago and what it is now. All right.
Well, I think it's honestly, in an ironic way, it's kind of a perfect projection of a huge problem with like the gay community in general. It is the pride, like in the literal sense of the word. It's like, yeah, sorry, dude. The world ending is way more important than whatever you've got going on. No offense. So it's very on the nose about like what our whole problem with it is.
They tried to make a virtue signaling script and they accidentally just showed off literally the problem with it. That the world could be ending and they will still stop you to let you know that they're gay, right?
Yep.
So
it's always like that. It's always that irony.
Yeah, that actually is kind of funny. I hadn't made that connection before. But anyway, so the only reason why I mentioned that is just because like woke is broke now, and it's really interesting. Like I kind of don't know. I don't have my finger to the pulse of the right as much, just because 2 things surprised me. It surprised me how quickly the right went anti-Semitic. There's some like brain rot against Israel on the right. Okay. And I'm not saying that you can't like Israel or else you're automatically an anti-Semite. But there has been a precipitous drift towards anti-Semitism on the right that surprised me. And second off, I feel to a certain extent we're kind of leaderless. I wouldn't say leaderless, but like, I don't think Donald Trump's fallen from some kind of grace like people like want him to. I think it's really interesting. Winston Churchill didn't win re-election, and I actually spoke with a woman who was under Winston Churchill. And I said, why'd you guys get rid of Churchill? He was like literally your best prime minister ever. And it was only downhill after that. Like, how did he not win re-election? You know what she told me in her thick English accent? She said, oh, Winston, we were just so tired of him. And I'm like, dude, but to a certain extent, I kind of think, I don't know a single president, no matter how popular, that didn't catch flack those last 2 years. It seems like 6 years is the sweet spot. Even Ronald Reagan, beloved Ronald Reagan, highest popularity rating extended over time for any president, started catching some serious hardcore flack those last 2 years, even from people in his own party. So it just kind of seems like there's a sweet spot of 6 to 7 years in the political zeitgeist in order for you to win the election. And then there's only 6 to 7 years after you've been elected that you're kind of perceived positively. So I know that like some people are very unhappy with him about like Epstein files or this or that. But I also think some of it's just like the natural decline of popularity you get 6 years later. And I don't see anybody able to fill that void because nobody's a warrior publicist.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously attempts being made to fill it. I will say, just from my own perspective, Trump's definitely falling out of favor with especially young people. But I think the conversation around this, and by the way, the trend you're describing is correct. I mean, this is why Trump comes back in 24 and wins the popular vote and the electoral college in all of the swing states, which I couldn't believe. I was on my mission during the election, which was crazy, like crazy time to leave for my mission if I'm a political commentator. But that was crazy. I could not believe he had won all the swing states, the popular vote. But that's why is that there is that true human thing of, whatever's happening now, it's not as entertaining. And that's why the, Biden election, the Kamala versus Trump election, it is a referendum on the last 4 years of people just not liking whatever the current thing is, and then thinking back and saying, hey, maybe this Trump guy's not as bad as we originally thought, because there was obviously a significant drift in every state but Utah towards Trump, and he is the same candidate, and even with a arguably more radical platform the third time around. However, the biggest issue here that I'm seeing, and this addresses maybe the first thing you brought up, which is kind of the shift to maybe this low IQ anti-Semitism that is starting to exist on the right. It's that the right needs to realize, or needs to figure out, what it's going to do when it becomes too popular. The right wing in 2016 and the Trump base was galvanized by the fact that they were not part of mainstream society and that they were not a part of the popular culture. Now it is inarguable, and it is completely unmistakable to anybody that right-wing politics, and politics, for instance, concerning Israel, like this antagonism towards Israel, that is the majority opinion. And there are way too many people who I think are going to leave this right-wing coalition the moment it becomes the cultural majority, because people don't want to be a part of whatever is most popular. People love the idea of being part of this discriminated against minority. That's why the grievance politics of different minority groups is so like powerful in the United States, that people love the idea of being discriminated against. Honestly, right-wing content creators love the idea that they are being discriminated against on social media platforms, but I hate to break it to you, it's like that's not the case anymore. Twitter is free speech. YouTube has reduced their restrictions. TikTok is probably the only app that's gotten more restrictive, and that's
but you can at least start a new
of,
profile just with a different email address.
But you see what I'm saying? It's like people, I don't think, are ready to stick this thing through to the end and do the political things that are necessary to win, because they're not interested in winning. They're not ideologues. They are people who are galvanized by whatever, is kind of edgy. And the moment that the edgy things start being more popular than whatever was the case prior, I think people are going to hop off. I think woke is actually, I don't know if it'll come back, because you're right, it completely exploded or imploded rather. But I think people are going to leave or just make fools of themselves in such a way that the real counterculture is going to be being, for instance, pro-Zionist. And right now that's what's happening. It's like everybody doesn't like Israel. I think so. I think there are going to be very intelligent people who are going to become pro-Zionist because literally everybody else is anti-Zionist. And there's a significant amount of people now who don't even know why they're
now
anti-Zionist.
Would be a good time for me to highlight our sponsor, the nation state of Israel, the gathering place for conflicted Jews. Or, no, I'm just kidding.
Philo-Semites alike, yes.
Philo-Semites. Yes, I'm renaming my channel Philo-Semite. Actually, bro, I gotta tell you, you are invited. Next time I go there with whatever NGO I'm going with, I'm gonna try and drag you there, because it's an eye-opening experience once you're there.
They're gonna drown me in the Red Sea
once you're there.
No.
Oh no! Actually, they're very open. It's actually kind of insane. Part of the reason why so much anti-Semitism is allowed to exist online is because they're kind of almost as dedicated to this idea of. It's very strange. It's a very Christian nation, even though it's a Jewish nation. Like they recognize that trying to shut down opposition speech never works.
I completely disagree.
And they were victims of that. Oh, I don't know, dude. It would be.
I think what you just said is so not the case right now.
I literally asked, dude, I don't know, man. Like I've sensed the ethos, and it's different. Like when you go there, it's different. Because also, here's the other thing. They're not really worried about Americans' opinions, because the average American anti-Semite isn't the anti-Semite they're worried about. Middle Eastern anti-Semitism comes with like a bomb attached to it.
That's probably probably fair. That's probably fair.
It's not just like, oh, Nick Fuentes saying mean things about Jews that they've all heard from the Middle Ages. Oh, that's child's play. That's fine. Oh, how many hits did he get? Oh, 4 million hits. Oh, that's fine. Over here, they're firing AK-47s at the Knesset from the top of Mount Geradim. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we literally have to put bulletproof vests on our senators as they walk into the equivalent of our Congress building because there's freaking Jordanian snipers that are trying to kill them as they walk into the building. So that's the anti-Semitism that we're kind of focused on right now. Sorry if the clicks and views aren't hip in America. And it sometimes is to their detriment because if you're not paying attention to the proxy war via social media, then that's how doctrine spreads. We noticed that in anti-Mormonism. Like the Grand Blank shooter was like steeped in Mark Driscoll anti-Mormon Christianity, and there's only so many times you can call Mormons demonic and like literal Satanists before somebody reads a Bible verse about what you're supposed to do to demons and thinks that grabbing an AR-15 is justified. So
well, if I could, do you mind if I jump in there?
No, jump in.
So I think I want to say this. This is something that I was actually talking with Cam Higby about. I don't know if you know him. He's very pro-Israel. He is actually only recently coming around to Christianity. And that's how you know that this guy is like really genuinely interested in the debate, is that he is not an evangelical and he is not Jewish and he still debates in favor of Israel. That's how you know he's in it for the love of the game. But I was talking with him and I'm like, look, I do think that the right-wing anti-Semitism, much of which I don't think is genuine anti-Semitism, because I think that word is thrown around the same way racism was a couple of years back. But like the right-wing anti-Semites are not the kind of people who are going to go burn down a college campus. Left-wing anti-Semitism is much more aligned with like these revolutionary causes that are violent in their means. Right-wing anti-Semitism is like, I don't think that Trump should be like taking Netanyahu to the Oval Office as many times as he has. And I don't think it bears out in violence because the right-wing temperament is not as revolutionary as the left-wing temperament is. So I think there's a definite clear distinction between how these two groups are talking about the issue of Israel, although there maybe are some overlaps about some of the concerns. Like we're not the ones who are going to go out to a like Free Palestine protest and also be there with a Black Lives Matter sign, because that's always the case. And that's by nature of the left being intersectional in its approach. However, I disagree. I have to just like flat out disagree with the idea that Israel is not so worried about the social media anti-Semitism, because you have Benjamin Netanyahu, who brings out a group of, I think it was 15 influencers, to literally have a meeting with him wherein he says that the most important decisions being made are the acquiring of TikTok and the conversation around X, or Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter. And he says that they are involved in a 7-front war. And the 7th front in this war, if I'm not mistaken, is the front that he was discussing, is a social media conflict. He has a very vested interest, and which he has openly said, in purchasing TikTok and being able to stop the growth of anti-Semitism. And with the purchase of TikTok by Larry Ellison, who is Jewish himself and has very close ties to Bibi Netanyahu, there are restrictions being placed on the way that people talk about that conflict. So I don't agree with the idea that he's not worried about it. I think at least Jewish people globally, but I guess
I'm not saying he's not worried about it. I'm just saying I don't think he's as worried about it compared to like the kinetic anti-Semitism of the Middle East.
I agree with that. Like, and I think, by the way, I think he's correct. Like, frankly, yes, I am more worried about left-wing anti-Zionist activists, because they are the ones that are going to go burn down cop cars and like light stuff on fire. And, I was at UC Irvine and there was a pro-Palestine or a Free Palestine protest, and they brought out a paper mache doll of one of the college's deans, who I think was pro-Zionist. It's like, what are you insinuating? You're going to beat this guy to death? It's like, the left-wing anti-Zionists are very different than right-wing anti-Zionists.
So I stand by this. I stand by this, bro. I'm going to take you to Israel, bro. I'm going to take you to Israel, and it's going to be an eye-opening experience. No, it's going to be it's going to be an eye-opening experience. It's going to blow your mind, bro. Because I hope
not literally.
Actually, two things will blow your mind. See, I've been
pager.
No,
I'm sorry.
I've been to Gaza, bro. I've been in the kibbutz that Hamas just literally went into. And I've talked to the Israelis that felt betrayed by the IDF because the IDF didn't come to save them. It's a masterclass in why we need the Second Amendment in America, because no joke, half those men that were able to defend them and their families against the terrorists with AK-47s were doing it with handguns, but they ultimately succumbed to their injuries and the terrorists. Why? Because the terrorists had unlimited ammo, and the state of Israel requires you can only have 90 rounds of ammunition. So these fathers defending their families with freaking Beretta handguns, doing so successfully, were literally able, in a nation now where it's building code that you have to have a safe room in your house if you're like within like 500 miles of the Palestinian border, just because like it's their building code now that your family has to have a room that you can hide from terrorists in. Like that's how bad it is over there. Like that's how anti-Semitic the surrounding nations are. The Israel's building codes have freaking safe rooms in them. And these guys were getting burned alive in those safe rooms because they ran out of bullets. They could have defended themselves had they simply even just been allowed to have more ammunition. Right. So it's a master class in why in America we need the Second Amendment. But yeah, I think it's going to blow your mind. Like I will it'll be a free trip. You know what I'm saying? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But I think
I'm not going to find anybody in my hotel room.
No, you won't. I think, but if you hang yourself, I think it's important to say you're not suicidal right now. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to write my I did not kill myself note right now.
I am not suicidal. No. So the thing is, I'll take you, bro. And there's two things that changed my mind actually. The people that defied my expectations the most were actually the Muslims. The Bush years were not kind to Muslims, and I don't say this in a woke way, but there was a lot of national opinions that were made in real time for us by CNN and MSNBC and Fox News that I think were not good to Muslims, and the Muslims were nothing but awesome when I was over there, and they're the ones that defied stereotypes the most were the Muslims. And then the whole experience, once you go, it'll change your mind. But that's off topic. Here's a question I have for you about the right before we go back to this bar fight video.
Hold on, chat. Put one in the chat if I should go, two in the chat if I shouldn't. Let's pull the chat.
Yeah, should we send Kai Schwimmer?
let's see what they say.
Should we send Kai Schwimmer?
Is it worth risking my life?
Hardly risking.
Look, I see it goes two ways. Either I go out and, maybe Mossad gets me, or number two, I go out and they show me the West Bank and then like a terrorist kills me. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. This is a lose-lose situation.
Just don't wear a MAGA hat, bro, because then it's an easy target. The red hat.
Yeah, really the red hat is bad moves.
So, so here's my question for you. As a guy that's an insider on the right, I oftentimes warn people that it's very tempting because there's common ground on a lot of social issues, traditional marriage, abortion, so on and so forth. It's very easy for a lot of members to all of a sudden think that they're conservative or they're Republican or they're whatever. And they don't realize that Mormons, man, we're hybrids. Just like there's Republicans and there's Democrats, and then there's like that 2% of libertarians that at best provide a spoiler role in some elections. In North America, man, there's Catholics and there's Protestants, and then there's Mormons, that 2%. Sometimes they're over here, sometimes they're over there, right? In many ways, we're a very liberal faith. Like we are, like financially, fiscally, we are hyper liberal. We give 10% of our income to an institution requiring zero transparency, just saying have it and do what you want with it. That is psycho liberal, okay? And then also to the liberal members of our church that think like Mormonism is all social liberalism, it's like, dude, our stance on traditional marriage is not just like conservative. It's so conservative that we have codified ethics and doctrine that gender is eternal. Our God does not just have no parts and passions. He's a married brother.
That by the way, that's my favorite thing ever is when you're talking to like some Reddit atheist and they're like, well, how do you know God's not a woman? And most of the time, like the regular Christian, well, I mean, it's the language referred in the Bible as male. Oh yeah, but God doesn't have a body, does he? We're just like, yeah, he's a dude. It's like, it literally says so in the family Bible.
it's codified doctrine.
Exactly. So and then you have the recent General Conference talks where it's like doubling down and tripling down. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I oftentimes warn members of the church and viewers of this channel, like, hey, before you start thinking you're X, like, before you start thinking you're Republican, before you start thinking you're Democrat, you might want to rethink this because we have some views that are very not X, Y, or Z, right? So So as a guy who's generally on the right, very conservative, outspoken, has a public persona as such, where do Mormons fall in the modern coalition of the right?
That's an interesting question. It's like, it's tough because, you have to realize that and inevitably when you go into politics, you understand it's not just Republicans and Democrats. We're seeing that right now with this huge divide over the Israel issue and affordability and a couple other things on the right. And then on the left, you have like these radical progressives and these also, more kind of Obama era Democrats. And he was, yes, very progressive, but much less so than an AOC or than maybe even a Bernie Sanders, right? So these factions within it exist, but I wouldn't even say that we exist in a particular faction. And this is why, by the way, I don't call myself typically a Republican. Yeah, I'm a college Republican, and I associate maybe with the label electorally because it aligns more with my values. But we're trying to associate ourselves with a line of best fit rather than with this ideological absolutism. Because the moment you draw like this political ideological absolute, that's the moment that the political label becomes more important to you or more defining of who you are than the religious one. And so when I introduce myself to people, I've actually started doing this now. I start by saying I'm a child of God. And this was inspired by President Nelson's talk regarding the 3 identifiers that are most important, right? And I realized when I talk to somebody, if I'm telling them first that I'm a conservative or I'm a Republican, I'm not communicating what is truly most important. And what is most important is my identity that is eternal, that is never going to change. That is that I am a son of God, that I believe that. And then I don't add, child of the covenant and some of these other labels that are equally important just because, maybe we get a bit too into the weeds for the kinds of conversations that I'm having. But it is to say that, and I said this actually in that same episode of Bar Fight to an LDS woman, this very kind lady that came up and asked another question. She's like, okay, well, what can I say to my sons about, discerning voices in politics and whatnot? What I said is, look, you always have to let your religion determine what your politics are rather than let your politics determine what your religion tells you. And I get worried because I see a lot of people start converting to Christian faiths, particularly these days, Catholicism. As Michael pointed out, there's this huge influx, especially among young people. I feel like they're converting because it's based. I feel like they see a photo of priests, Orthodox priests maybe, shooting guns and smoking cigarettes, and they think those guys look cool, and they think that it's like super based and like rough around the edges, and it's not your dad's religion, or it's not like your sissy hippie mom's religion. But that's never what religion was about. Religion was not about being based. And that's why I said, and Michael actually agreed, which was cool, being based is not a Christian virtue. You should not join a church because you think it's the most traditional. You should join a church because you have been convinced by the Spirit of God that it is true, that the truth claims are accurate. And that's that. And maybe it's a non-answer to your question, but I just don't think that we should ever tie ourselves to one ideological label.
No, I love that. And here's my question. So if you're introducing yourself and saying like, hi, my name is Kai Schwimmer, I am a child of God. What if you just kept shaking their hand and said, I'm also a child of the covenant. And I'm also a disciple of Christ. Like, you have to do that at least once. Like, when you first meet Donald Trump, I will give you whatever amount of money it takes to just have you shake his hand and then just keep shaking it and saying, I'm a child of God and a disciple of Christ.
Great to meet you. And what does this guy do? Hi, President Trump. I'm a child of God and a disciple of Jesus Christ and a child of the government. Doing the Mormon handshake. Yes,
dude,
sir.
that'd be, the Secret Service like literally grabs your hand and like
They would
unconnects
kill
it
me.
and says, all right, they unsafety their firearms. Okay, so we only got 17 more minutes or 23 more minutes left. And then
I've only got 7% on my phone's battery. So
well, then we got to burn through these. We got to burn through these. Ask one of your cousins for a
charger.
A charger. It's kind of funny you mentioned being based is not a virtue, because that was really kind of the subject of the next question that came up when he talked to the abortion clinic guy.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I want to. Should we do that one, or should we do the woman that asked you the question that was a member of the church? I don't know.
You do the abortion one. I think I summed up the question that she gave pretty well.
Okay, cool. And then
however you prefer.
we'll just keep going forward. We'll keep going forward.
It is a very American religion. There's no that is at least absolutely true. Okay, next.
All right, as your resident Reformed Baptist representing and an abortion abolitionist, I would like to ask you guys. First of all, I hold the controversial view that it should be illegal for everyone to murder anyone. It's crazy, right?
That's nuts.
So my question would be, well, before I ask the question, after 50 years of an overturning Roe and the Dobbs decision, we continue to see abortion numbers skyrocket through the means
pill.
of male pill. And in all 50 states, it's perfectly legal for mothers to self-manage abortions, right? So the question is, should preborn children have equal protection under the law from all who would intentionally conspire to terminate their life, or should we give provisions to mothers to have freedom to execute their children?
100% preborn children should have every last, going back to the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment has its as predicate that language. No person shall be denied life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I mean, I was one of the pioneers of the personhood movement a decade ago. So 100% I believe in the personhood of the unborn child. I do think you're making these are kind of your classic abolitionist talking points. I'll say that you guys are going to win the argument because the mainstream pro-life movement is rudderless and lacks direction and had no post-Roe plan. So you're going to win because you guys actually have a vision to victory.
Okay, now I'm just pausing right here because what's so wild is Steve Deace had literally made a couple of like snide remarks, not about Mormons, not just against you, but previously he'd said like, yeah, I work for the Daily Wire. I know all about Mormonism or something like that. He was about 3 deep in negative jabs against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if you watch this whole video. And I'm going to try and make sure that I include the original link to this video in there. But then when he turns around and he gives this answer to the abortion abolitionists, just replace, when he's chastising them for their methodology of how they do this, just substitute Mormon as a word in there as you listen to this, okay? Just substitute Mormon as a word in there.
The challenge that you guys are going to have is what kind of collateral damage are you going to cause on your way to your victory? Because you guys, and I say this, man, as a pugilist, okay? But you guys take some of the most counterintuitive confrontational tactics I've ever seen, right? And you end up, and I've said this to some of your national leaders, you push away people who would be with you because you give them, you make them think that everything they did for the last 40 years was a sin against Christ.
So I appreciate that. Can we address
100%.
I
You bet.
don't know those guys, so on the point, it sounds like we're wearing you down. You're coming around to our position.
Listen, I had your position before you did.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is you would have won probably by now if your tactics were, to be blunt, a little less douchey at times, to be blunt.
Dude, what did you think when you heard that? When I heard that, I wanted to scream at the screen and say, how can you say this to fellow members of the body of abortion abolitionism, but you don't see how it applies to fellow members of the body of Christ?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked that he was taking the approach that he was because I thought he was going to be a lot more hard line. But it's like what we were talking about before where, you know, when they add these qualifiers of like, you know, oh, the shooting in Grand Blanche, Michigan was terrible. But when they add that qualifier, but we should remember that Mormons are not Christian, it's only ever in an attempt to strip this like natural human empathy from a person that they are feeling towards a victim of a tragedy, right? And so I was, you know, I did think it was very ironic that he was taking this very level, like it seemed like a different Steve Deace, this very even-handed, this very level-headed approach to the issue of abortion abolitionism, understanding that some people are turned away simply by the way that people talk about the issue and their methods and, you know, how rambunctious they are in making their opinion come across. And it seemed like a totally different Steve Deace, but it showed me that, you know, he is capable of making those concessions and, you know, being even-handed when it comes to issues that he is willing to identify himself with. The issue is that he's already drawn that qualifier of Mormons not being Christians that removes him from being able to extend the same concessions to us. And that's the problem. And you're right to point that out within the conservative space. There's so many people who lack the understanding that they need Latter-day Saints. They eventually, and maybe, I don't know if it's going to be in the sense that they'll be knocking at Deseret's door when the country falls apart and they're going to need a ticket in. But they do, they fail to understand that they actually need us to save a lot of the states that they're counting on. So yeah, I would just, I'd point that out, is that, look, you're right. It sounds terribly ironic coming from Steve Deace, the way that he talks about not being douchey.
That's funny. Yeah. So that brings us into a couple of super chats really fast. Sneax229. This one's for you, Kai. This one's for you. Says, Kai's chipper and jovial demeanor is something we should all try to emulate. People naturally gravitate towards the side that projects confidence, joy, and good faith. Okay, that's you. He's talking about you, not me. And then Craig M. Nelson 86 says, what do you all think about TPUSA having Mark Driscoll on the Charlie Kirk show next day after the shooting in Michigan?
I talked about that. I did a whole show about that. It's like, this is just absurd. And there was absolutely no, there were no caveats there. There was no, statement. And obviously, Mark Driscoll on his own Twitter is coming out right after the shooting, adding those qualifiers, saying, oh, but don't get it twisted, guys. The people that died, they weren't Christian. Like, what are you trying to get out of us? You're trying to make us empathize less with the victims. So yeah, I thought that was terrible. I thought that was very low. I mean, I'm sure to play, to steelman their case, I'm sure they had this interview lined up well before that. But I wish that he would have taken the time to address it at all. I'm not aware of anything he said that addressed it, and how the comments that he made directly go to minimizing the actual events of the shooting.
Yeah, and also I just think, what kind of example are you? Like, if I don't believe, for example, that Buddhism has the most truth on earth. I think God inspired the Buddha. I think Buddhism helps millions of people worldwide get closer to God, the God, my God, their God. I believe it is emphatically good. I don't think it's as good as mine, but I think it's good, but it's still not mine. I don't think it's the true and living church. I think it's a good church, but I don't think it's the true and living church. At the same time, if there was a massacre of Buddhists in Alabama at the Yay Buddha Yay festival in, I don't know, Springville, Alabama on Monday, I'm not going to see fit to release a book, Why Buddhists Are Going to Hell in a Handbasket by Cardin Ellis, on Thursday. Like at what amount of Christianity, would Christ do that? I would just,
yeah. No, or right after Charlie Kirk's shooting, trying to divert attacks on the general body of Christians by saying, oh, but the shooter wasn't a Christian, he was a Mormon. It's like, what are we doing there, dude? Like, you're trying to divert these people who are blaming the murder of Charlie Kirk on Christians to us. Like, you're just doing this pass along. Like, no, we'll let them take the flag. It's absolutely spineless.
So does the right,
so cowardly.
Does the right just want, because you got to remember, Mitt Romney lost. When you dug into the data, Mitt Romney lost. If the same number of registered Republicans that had voted for John McCain would have showed up and simply just voted in the same percentages as they had for John McCain before, the rhinos doing the rhino thing, the evangelicals doing the evang thing, the fiscal Republicans doing the fiscal thing. If the same percentage of simply registered Republicans would have showed up and voted for Mitt Romney as it voted for John McCain, we wouldn't have gotten a second Obama presidency. We wouldn't have gotten Obamacare. Think how much better the nation would have been. Okay. Now, I remember I was listening to the radio. Okay, those were in the early days of radio for me. I'm listening to the radio, and all of the conservative commentators were just aghast because they had all projected a Mitt Romney victory because they were crunching the numbers. And they know that on average, these counties average this many voters, this many registered Republicans will show up, and they to the 2% percentile of predictability show up in these percentages. It's going to be a landslide in all of these swing districts, and Mitt Romney's this is going to be an awesome upset. They were practically lighting the celebration torches before they'd called the election, and then the next day when we found out that Mitt Romney had lost, everybody was trying to figure out what happened. And then when they said, if you were one of those people that didn't vote, call in this morning. And it was the Salem Radio Network, which is a very Christian radio network. Okay. It's the one that Dennis Prager is on. Michael Medved used to be on. Ben Shapiro, your boy, started there, you know, and he's an LA guy. I got to support Ben. He's a Los Angelino. But I remember it was just redneck Evang after redneck Evang. Pull the tapes if you have to, saying, well, you know, I'm just of the heart and mind that if we're a train going off the cliff, I'd rather go off 50 miles per hour than 25 miles per hour. Oh, damn it, I ain't voting for no Mormon. You know, like literally they sounded like the anti-Mormons in that old seminary video where it says, first they're going to give us Mormon neighbors, then it's going to be Mormon judges, you know, and it's just... It was literally unadulterated religious bigotry on steroids after they had made a movie. Mike Huckabee and his buddies paid to make the movie September Dawn just to make Mormons look like violent religious psychos. And that was all attacks from Mitt Romney's own party, from the party that most Western Mormons would have felt that they identified with. So like, I kind of feel like, I don't know, I feel like the right's trying to squeeze us out, bro.
I don't know. I think it's probably, and it's difficult because there's still polling, like Pew Research has done some studies and there have been some other studies done regarding perceptions of different religions of those same religions, right? And Mormons, unfortunately, like we have the most favorable opinions of everybody else and everybody has the least favorable opinions of us all the time. I think that the church, what it needs to do is it has to take this war of public relations to social media. And I think it's actually starting to do that with, you know, the recent appointing of, you know, the outdoor boys to the advisory council of the Young Men's General Presidency. You also, what's this guy's name? Something Millennial. You know the guy.
Oh, True Millennial. Yeah, it's Parker Walbeck.
True Millennial.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he's also been chosen for it. So I think the church is realizing that, but I think it's, you know, long overdue. What I will say is that I don't think that should ever be an excuse for us to kind of pull out of these circles, because I think that, you know, the religious discrimination, we've always had it forever. We know that we're safer among ourselves. But I'll say that it is ridiculous. Like, you want to talk to me about religious discrimination in the early 20th century with Reed Smoot, I think it's a lot more understandable. You have a majority, you know, much more Christian country at the time, which is majority Protestant. And you do have, you know, a relationship of the church with the federal government that is not necessarily very kind. And it's because of the martyrdom of Joseph Smith, and it's because of several other events. And so I don't think the Congress is totally out of bounds in saying, look, you know, we do want to investigate Reed Smoot's ideology and make sure this guy is, you know, because they didn't know anything about us, and that was partially our fault. You know, we'd secluded ourselves in Utah. But I think, like with Mitt Romney in the in the 2000s, 2010s, it's insane to me that was something that these evangelicals are like, you know, staying home for. And we have to do something to combat that perception. To some extent, it's, you know, the fact that we are the Church of Jesus Christ is always going to garner us a negative reputation in Hollywood, in South Park, in Broadway shows. You know, that's always going to be the case. You're always going to have your Mountain Meadow Massacres Netflix specials that liberals are going to see and that a bunch of stupid conservatives are going to see, and that is literally just anti-Mormon propaganda, not even based on facts. You're always going to have some of that. But I think the church needs to do more, and I think now it finally is, to affirmatively combat the perception that we have been able to, or the perception that we have had hoisted or foisted upon us.
Okay, so I'm going to put this in less than 60 seconds, but you finally just helped me formulate my 60-second philo-Semitic defense. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. Shoot.
As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you know how you're all in on the gospel and membership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But when you go on TikTok, it's 99% bad to 1% good references to the church. TikTok's a cesspool. Twitter, it's like 70-30. YouTube, it's like 65-35, right? But on TikTok, it's just run the reputation management algorithms, and it's 99% just negative references. You go on TikTok, you're going to think Mormons are just a bunch of pedophiles defending a pedophile prophet, that are all billionaires that are just, have horns and are trafficking in every evil imaginable. But when you go to church, you're like, okay, no, this is totally not the way it is. Like, TikTok, though convincing, is not real life because I've experienced it. But I recognize the boomers that run my church have a great dereliction of duty. They never adapted to the 21st century, and they never got on TikTok to fight. So only anti-Mormon arguments are on TikTok. They didn't get Instagram until February of 2024, literally 15, 16, 17 years after the app was invented. It's actually a dereliction of our duty as members that we didn't hire Parker Walbeck and Daryl Eves and True Millennial and the Outdoor Boys on day one when social media was invented. Instead, we waited until 66% of millennials were inactive before we said, oh, shite, it's actually costing us, and we sacrificed a generation of young people at the altar of our boomer convenience. That right there is exactly what's wrong with the state of Israel. I've gone there personally. Post-war, I think there was so much shame about what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust that nobody dare speak out against anything Israel for fear of being perceived as on the side of the baddies. Do you know what I'm saying? And so there was this kind of like gasp, we can't talk about it. And because of that, Mormons largely in our wealth, we've forgotten how to fight. We've forgotten the Reed Smoot hearings. We've forgotten the Elderberry massacre. We've forgotten that, like, Russell M. Nelson was born only 3 years after two martyred missionaries in Tennessee had to be smuggled out by B.H. Roberts dressed as a homeless person. Like, this is within the lifetimes of people that are alive now. They're over a century old, but they're alive now, right? So in our wealth, we've forgotten how to fight. And we're resting on our laurels, and then that's just completing the pride cycle. I think, especially from like a PR perspective, like Israel's boomers forgot how to fight the PR fight. They completely neglected social media. It's absolutely asymmetrical warfare. You want pro-Palestinian arguments? Literally just type in Israel on TikTok and you'll get 50,000 of them. And that's why Charlie Kirk sent that letter to Bibi Netanyahu saying, please do something about social media, because I can't defend you if we're getting clobbered and you don't defend yourself. Because the number one thing that blew my mind when I went there was I was like, these people are clueless. These people have no idea how to fight digital warfare. They can freaking send a drone from space, or they can program pagers using parts from 17 different countries, but they can't figure out how to win a propaganda war. Like, I'm sorry, I can't defend you guys if you can't defend yourselves.
I see that argument. I would just say it's like, I just think you're right. Like, Israel is terrible at PR. But I also think there's just a ton of things like the unpopularity of Israel is not a new thing. Like, the unpopularity of Israel has existed since the 60s. And like, there was a cartoon, actually, it was, I forget where it was aired. I just saw it on Twitter again. It was
a little Grabbler on the Onion. No,
no.
Oh, you've never seen the little Grabbler on the Onion?
I don't think so. It's one of it's like it's in
funny.
Dateline NBC or something. Like,
Okay.
it's this back and forth, and they're like two sock puppets or whatever. One of them's like the Israeli prime minister of the time, and then the other one is like the interviewer, and it's like, what is the country that's killed 40 children in the last year? And the guy goes, South Africa. And he goes, nope, Israel. And then he goes back and forth. And eventually the last question's like, which country has the best oranges? And the guy goes, oh, yes, that's Israel. And the guy goes, nope, South Africa. And it's like, Israel has been unpopular for decades prior to social media, prior to all of that. And I think it's because, there is a lot of stuff, and you and me will probably disagree about it. And maybe the argument is not about who's right. It's about, or maybe the argument is not about, the perspectives. And this is when I debated Cam Higby, what he basically did. I said, look, I don't think the United States should support Israel for X, and X reasons. And then he mentioned one of them, and he said, well, I think Israel was justified in that. And I said, yeah, but the debate isn't about justification for what Israel is doing. The debate is about whether the United States should support the state of Israel. And a lot of the times I think Israel gets bogged down in this well, what we're doing is justified, that they forget that it's not just about you being justified, it's about winning our support. And Israel, since the 60s, has made itself incredibly unpopular. And I don't think it's just something that they started losing now. And I would even add, if you looked up Israel 5 years ago, I promise you the majority of the results are not going to be pro-Palestinian. In fact, it was very difficult.
Well, that's
You're
because
right, to have
legacy,
those conversations.
boomer-led legacy media had so much more sway on the American zeitgeist.
Yes,
That's
but I would
why.
also say that the reason the comparison to the LDS Church kind of falls apart is that the LDS Church has never existed with authority in the external. Like internally, you've got the bishops and whatnot, the boomers who are, falling asleep at the wheel about some of the social media stuff. I agree with that. That's an astute observation and it's true. But I would say with Israel, it's like Israel did have a lot of institutional support. And despite the fact that they were shot down, many times over in the UN, and that's true, like they're discriminated against maybe by the UN, they also do have a nuclear arsenal. They also do, wield a certain amount of authority in Western nations through proxies like the ADL or the SPLC, which are willing to, combat anti-Semitism in a very serious way that does cause people to lose social capital when they're being targeted by those things. And you probably agree with me. You probably think the ADL sucks.
Oh, I met with, dude, you should have seen what I said to the ADL leader when I was in Israel and I met with her.
I would love to see it.
Oh, no. Somebody was in there and they recorded the conversation. But basically, I said, you chose the wrong team. I literally said, when you left the reservation of monitoring anti-Semitism and started becoming a hall monitor of who's nice to what group or whatever, and started becoming just a hall monitor of social media, calling every Tom, Dick, and Harry racist or homophobic or whatever, like you fell out of favor. And guess what? Those people aren't supporting you now. Now what are they doing?
100%.
They're marching against you. Everybody
100%.
intersectional that you wanted to go out and help, they've turned their backs on you and they're taking a dump on you. Meanwhile, the conservatives that you were busy calling racist for the past 20 years are it's the boomer conservatives actually that you've been calling racist the past 20 years are the only ones saying, hey, we should defend Israel. So like, I actually don't think that it's that I would disagree with you. I think that it's not having been there, I don't think I would have the same opinions. If I had not been there, I don't think I would have the same opinions as I actually do right now. And I could see myself, just like Jordan Peterson says, hey, don't think that you're flawless or you're above reproach. You would have been a Nazi too, or whatever he says in his Canadian accent that I can't even come close to mimicking. I think that had I not experienced it myself, I don't know if I would have the exact same opinions that I have right now. And so I don't besmirch anybody for their opinions when the only information that you have is from social media and from legacy leftist boomer outlets. And it's like, if you had access to good information, I would judge you more as being irresponsible for articulating views that were, anti-Semitic or anti-Israel or whatever you want to call them. But I just don't think we have good access to good information that's reflective of the situation on the ground, because I've been there and then I've also read what was written in news outlets by people that weren't there and how they don't match up. And so what starts happening is I start getting the same spider senses on the back of my neck. Like when I went to Donald Trump rallies in like 2016 or Republican rallies or whatever, and I'd see a bunch of kind of like wholesome, complete families showing up and being very pro-America and saying, I'd ask them for the interviews at the radio station. Oh, so like, why are you pro-Trump? Are you racist? Like as a joke. And they'd be like, oh, no, actually, I work in fiber optics and NAFTA is killing us. And he says that these trade deals aren't serving us. And they'd give actually like very articulate, well thought out, well reasoned, financial answers that actually had nothing to do about social issues. And then Donald Trump would get up and he'd say something like, oh, I had Taco Bell on the way over here, and of all the franchises, I think it's the best taco on the planet. And then you'd open up the newspaper the next day and it would say like racist rally full of white supremacists, not husbands and fathers with their children and their wives, okay? But the newspaper would read, racist rally with Trump besmirching all Latinos and their horrible cuisine or something. And you just look at it and be like, no, that's not, I was there. That's not, I'm not even a Trump supporter, whatever that means. But like, now I feel like I kind of got to defend him just because I'm not defending him. I'm defending like the record. I'm defending reality. I'm defending what actually happened, because what you're writing in this headline does not match up with what I saw at the rally that I just went to as a third party observer. And so I think the same thing's just going on with Israel right now. I've been there, and what people say about it just isn't true in my experience. And so that leads those same spider senses on my neck to say, what's going on here? And when I do that and I explore more, generally I find that there's a common denominator to a lot of those ailments that I think in their wealth of not having to fight philosophical anti-Semitism during the post-Holocaust years because so many people were hands off on the issue, I think led to a lot of intellectual laziness, or just the seeding of a lot of battlegrounds, or maybe just the not embracing social media early enough, hard enough. You can't just buy a platform to get your way out of it. You can't just throw your money at social media and then make the problem go away. That's not a solution. That's a coping mechanism of previous generations. It just doesn't work. You actually have to cowboy up and put in the hard work. And so I think that's kind of what's going on. Anyway, looks like we lost Kai there for a second. I was hoping that he'd be able to come back in, but unfortunately, I guess the phone died as it was predicted. He's going to miss these last 3 super chats, man. It's fine though, because we're already into extra credit. Craig M. Nelson says, because TPU hosting Mark, I've left politics. Book of Mormon has 2 cures for the robbers: preaching as the Lamanites did, or separation in 3rd Nephi. Gosh, I was going to ask Kai, how do you de-radicalize? Charlie Kirk said, how do you de-radicalize an entire nation? I was going to ask Kai what he thought about that. But anyway, Kai, thoughts on the Second Amendment as part of our religion? Unfortunately, we just lost Kai. I think his battery just crashed out because he's no longer on the Zoom. I'll have to ask him when he gets back. We'll give him another 2 minutes to show up before we jam here. But then he said, when did the angel take the Nephites' plate back to heaven? Their existence would prove Mormonism true. God allowed the Jews to carry the 10 Commandments, so why not the Mormons keeping the plates? Well, that's a really good question, my friend. Where's the Ark of the Covenant, bro? Why didn't God allow us to keep the Ark of the Covenant? Because that would prove Judaism true. And I don't know, where's the cross of Jesus? Why didn't God allow us to keep the cross of Jesus? Because that would prove Jesus's crucifixion. Why didn't he allow us to keep, I don't know, his sandals? Why didn't he allow us to keep the Holy Grail? Why didn't he allow us to keep... I don't know. Why did God not see fit to leave a lot of the relics of Scripture around? Because I don't actually think that if you did have the gold plates, we would literally just turn into a bunch of sola scriptura Protestants. Like, we have so many... I don't want to say all of the manuscripts, because obviously we're constantly finding new ones and you can't have all of the manuscripts. That's just a physical impossibility. But it's like, we have literally tens of thousands of manuscripts of the New Testament over 1,000 years that we've been able to use to correctly deduce that the New Testament is a wildly well-preserved document despite all of the historical headwinds operating against it, trying to make it so it would be burned and destroyed and gotten rid of. And in spite of the fact that we know that the New Testament is a wildly well-preserved document, paid for by the blood of many martyrs. Half of these Bible scholars, Kai's back. Half of these Bible scholars don't just think that the Bible is, hey, welcome back, Kai. Half of these Bible scholars don't think that, I'm just responding to a super chat, then we'll jump back in. Half of these Bible scholars, they don't turn around and now that they realize that the Bible is actually a well-preserved document, Bart D. Ehrman's not trying to jump into the baptismal font, okay, and trying to get baptized tomorrow because, now we know, now we got to keep the Bible. We have we can nail down to the verse of the Bible what's original, what's not, what is God's word, what might be a human edition later. And you don't see Bible scholars lining up and getting baptized for archaeological reasons because it's not the relic that converts, it's the Holy Spirit that does. And you have to learn to interact with God through the Holy Spirit in order to gain a conversion. So, yeah, I don't think that would help. Anyway, Kai, you ready to ask a question really fast or answer a question?
Dude, I'm so ready. I got this call from Tel Aviv. I don't know what's happening.
It's like...
The Qataris messaged me with a very lucrative offer.
Yeah, the Qataris, dude. You got to get that Qatari scratch, dude. What's his name is? Tucker Carlson is, bro.
Qatari Tucker?
Dude, yeah.
Yes,
he's getting that Qatari scratch, bro. So,
Tucker Carlson.
LDS response says, Kai, thoughts on the Second Amendment as part of our religion?
Like if it is a part of our religion or if I think it's based being a member of the church. I imagine he means it in the second sense. It's like, yeah, Second Amendment, super based, like right to defend yourself. Absolutely. Right to bear arms. I think your example, by the way, with Israel is very astute, very true. Absolutely. We need a right to bear arms. I think so. 100%. But I think that you have to exercise the kind of temperance with it that Joseph did. Joseph was actually very notorious about having every justification for using like either a navu, the militia or otherwise. And he chose not to repeatedly. Like he had an incredible amount of restraint. That's the way that you have to think about your use of firearms. There's way too many people who do the whole like, FAFO, you messed around, you found out. That's cringe. Like we're not a cult of violence.
That's true, dude. I mean, they fled after the martyrdom because they feared the Nauvoo Legion, bro. And then, okay, cool. Last question was also, last super chat was, and then we'll wind it down. Because of TPUSA hosting Mark, I've left politics. Book of Mormon has 2 cures for the robbers, preaching as the Lamanites did, or separation in 3rd Nephi. Here's my question for you, bro. Charlie Kirk said something very interesting before he was assassinated. And he said one of his great next projects, besides writing his book on Shabbat, which I'm going to buy a copy and send to you just because I want a Charlie Kirk book with a Jewish word on it in your bookshelf behind you, is he said, how do you de-radicalize? I want to de-radicalize the left. And he said, but how do you de-radicalize half of the nation? You're a young man. You know what's the difference between an edgy idea and a toxic ideology. How, and you yourself mentioned, like, I worry more about leftist anti-Semitism because it becomes kinetic than right-wing anti-Semitism because it's just kind of like edgelord, 4chan stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, we can flesh out whether that's true or not later. But I'm just curious, like, we can't continue as a nation with where we're at is unsustainable, and it's going to require some de-radicalization. How, in your view, dealing with young people constantly like you do, how can we de-radicalize half the nation? Because I don't see how we get in the Book of Mormon. We only ever survived by imprisoning the Gadianton robbers and then preaching them the gospel. We can't just imprison you for wrongthink and then make you love Jesus, like how do we de-radicalize half the nation, bro?
I think this is going to be an interesting take coming from me that a lot of people are going to be hearing. It's like, I think there's going to be some natural de-radicalization that occurs as the left begins to adopt once again Christianity. It's going to be this liberal, progressive Christianity, very Protestant, like whatever goes, and Jesus is just peace and love. But I think you're going to see that really being championed, especially around certain election cycles, with characters like, I don't know if you've seen him before, James Tallarico, who's based out of Texas. I think he's either running for the House or the Senate. And this is a guy who's like a pastor at some Protestant church. And I think that's what the left is going to want to push. They're going to want to push these moderate candidates who are Christian, nominally Christian, right? And it will have a de-radicalizing effect just by nature of them being like this calm, presentable, usually still white men, but who are Christian. So I think there's some de-radicalization that naturally will take place as the left realizes that those are the kind of candidates that they need to push in order to start winning elections, because they're going to realize that the radical progressives don't. The other obviously the other chance that we have is that they keep pushing people like Zoran Mamdani. And then, that's anybody's game. But I think what I've seen as most effective in de-radicalizing people, and what I've tried to do, is literally it's just like the jolliness, the joy about stuff. Unironically, like if you are able to push this idea that being happy, being kind, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, like the Boy Scouts say, if you're able to push that jolliness, it takes the place that would exist in the heart for hate and for genuine like spite. And if you can like laugh along, like I don't know if you saw yet the interaction that I had with Dean Withers and Parker. I confronted them outside of the America Fest event because Dean had dodged a debate with me. And maybe you're not even familiar with these two. These are two very, very popular liberal TikTok kind of debaters.
Okay.
And I kind of pressed them in public, but I was kind and jolly about it. I would make jokes. Like at the end, they were like, dude, why are you so nervous? You're shaking. I'm like, dude, I'm amped up on 300 milligrams of caffeine and I haven't eaten anything. And then I said, I get nervous around cute boys. Like I just threw this like super silly comment out, but it's like that kind of stuff. People actually gravitate to that. I think there's an untapped market of just being kind, hope-pilling people, showing people the good in the world. And I think that the more that you are able to push that kind of content out, I think that is de-radicalizing. I think telling people that things are really not as bad as they seem, or that, yeah, they are bad, but it doesn't matter, be happy anyway, I think that does help.
Okay, cool. So last 3 super chats just came in right here, and then we're shutting her down. What? Wait, no, we already did why the angel take the plates back. Okay. How do you account for the parallels in content and order between the Book of Mormon and the View of the Hebrews by Ethan Smith, published in 1823, 7 years ago? Oh, this is such basic, bro.
This is bait.
I love
this guy's baiting.
This is so funny. But he's paying $9.99 for a super chat.
Really?
So, like, Chosen V3. Go, bro. Keep bringing them. Keep bringing them, dog.
I would say to that guy, maybe read either of those books,
dude.
And then let me know.
Like, please, like, I'm gonna put this full screen. Please, 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 anybody interested in anti-Mormon arguments, especially this one, there's a copy in the BYU bookstore. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is so confident that you will not walk away thinking there's a parallel in content. I'm quoting him. A quote, parallel in content in order between the Book of Mormon and the View of the Hebrews by Ethan Smith, published in 1823, that they bought the rights to the book and they sell it. They publish a free PDF online. Please, if you think there's a parallel, please go read it. That's like saying there's a parallel between the U.S. Constitution and Freddie Mercury's Bohemian Rhapsody. You can think that asinine trope all day long if you want, but please, I will buy you a copy of Freddie Mercury's Bohemian Rhapsody, and I will give you a free PDF of the Constitution. And if you read both of those and you walk away thinking that the Constitution of the United States of America inspired Bohemian Rhapsody, then I have a bridge to sell you, and please be friends with the Chosen. So Chosen, bring them all day long, bro. If you got like 7 more of these, I'll take them. That's hilarious. And then finally, WF Titus says, Deace defended us against the attacks for a week after the shooting. You have no idea what you're talking about. He's been consistent on abortion/Mormons. I'd say he's been very consistent on abortion. I don't think he's been too friendly vocally towards members of the church. He hasn't been like your boy, what's his name?
Mark Driscoll?
No, not Mark Driscoll. Who's the other guy? Elijah Schaefer.
Oh, Elijah Schaefer, yeah.
Gosh, please. I mean,
Elijah's track record's worse.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Steve Deace's track record? Maybe I just got a bad batch of clips off the guy. Maybe the few times I've tuned into him, I don't listen to his regular show, but I've seen him doing guest commentary. There's positive, negative, and neutral. I've never seen anything but neutral or negative commentary from Steve Deace about my church.
Yeah, it seemed like the comments that he was making, at least in the show that I was on with him, they seemed jabby. Like, it seemed like he was taking jabs at the church. Like, he was siding with this guy who thinks that we're like this third camp, or that we're just not a part of the Christian sphere at all. But that was my experience with him from the debate. You're right. It's like, I don't at least think that he's like enemy number one of the church. I think if there's anybody who's actually got it out much more for us, it's Mark Driscoll, which is why comparatively we spent maybe 5 minutes talking about Steve Deace concerning the LDS church, but we spent a lot more time talking about Mark Driscoll, because Mark Driscoll has repeatedly, made himself kind of the enemy of the church and the things that he said about us. So, he has made himself that, we don't see him as a terrible, evil, awful person, despite how he views us.
I wouldn't say Steve Deace is anti-Mormon. I would say he's antagonistic towards the church when asked. Or, behind closed doors. I don't think he's saying nice things about us, but who knows? He's probably seen enough of Glenn Beck's Christianity to realize, okay, maybe it's not a winning argument to say Mormons aren't Christians, but I sure as hell don't have to like them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he's in that camp.
What I'll say, even to Steelman's case, like, he has that comment where he says, with that, I agree. Like, the way he said it made it feel like a jab, like he was calling us an underdog kind of as a bad thing. Because I said that what I said verbatim is like, I think the LDS church is a big underdog in this fight. And he says, on that, we agree. And I thought it was kind of jabby. But to Steelman, his case, it could be that he genuinely agrees that we are not being discussed enough. And that's possible. Like, I have no problem reserving my judgment about Steve Deace's opinions of us.
Okay, watch. I might have to horrendously eat crow, or else this WF Titus guy is up a creek without a paddle. One of the two is happening, because he says, watch his store, I think he means show, after the sitting, then do a show. Watch his store. Oh gosh, WF Titus. I don't know what you meant. I think you were typing really fast, so I can't tell what you're saying. But I hope I'm wrong. But in that interaction that you had with him, you're right. It seemed kind of jabby. It seemed kind of jabby. And then also in some of the press touring that he did for Nefarious, there was a couple of times where I can't remember, where he had a chance to say something positive and he didn't, or when asked about something, he said something that seemed kind of lackluster. And it's just, I don't know. There's a chance that I might be hypersensitive to it, I admit, but I'm usually pretty good at these kind of things. So I don't know. We'll
hear you out.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't want him to dislike us. Like, I would be more than happy to take back any of my presumptions about his opinions based on my interaction with him.
Yes. So Miss Janina, thank you very much for the gift of the membership. If any of you guys want to support the channel, please make sure you get a War in Heaven veteran hat at the Ward Radio bookstore. They're a cool way to stretch your stuff in public and support the channel. Also, if you want to buy a shirt, there's merch available there. Kai, where can people find you? If they're looking for you, my man, where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, the big three platforms that I'm on are YouTube, where you can just look up my name, Kai Schwimmer. The name's a little tough, but I'm sure Carden has it here on the video, so you'll be able to find it. There, I just uploaded the debate or confrontation that I had with Dean and Parker outside the streets of America Fest, which was that big TPUSA event in Phoenix. You'll be seeing more content. I've got another debate coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And then you can also find me on X, same handle, Kai Schwimmer, just my name, and then Instagram, where it's KAIKLIPS, Kai Clips.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So don't forget, guys, that Gathering Israel is doing a matching over at their 501c3 for all the great work that they're doing. And until the end of the year, they've got a donor that's going to match any fundraising that they do there. So don't forget to go and support them. Kai, thank you very much for showing up and hanging out. I'm going to do a little outro here. Just stay on for about 15 seconds, and then I'll talk to you on the other end of the Zoom once we make sure that everything is off. But it's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This